Hello, everyone. We are back with another live stream. It is me, Roy, and I also have Gabe alongside to host you guys tonight. It's been a busy week at Eurovision again, and we had to talk about everything. So we are back to talk about everything that we love so much, which is Eurovision. Gabe, how are you doing?
I am good. I'm excited because for some reason, good things just keep happening. Like this season, it has stayed blessed, and we're now almost all the way through national final season, and the
Mhm.
good things are still happening. I'm waiting for there to be some kind of disaster because at the moment it's going too well. But right now, I'm on top
Right.
of the world. I could not be happier.
All of your faves ever been winning then?
That or something approximating that, yes.
Oh, that is always great to hear. Now, let me know if you are here in the chat. Welcome, Baltic. Welcome, Victoire. Welcome, AJMXNA. Welcome,
Okay.
Katarina Maggie. Welcome, Carol. Welcome, Mookrush. Welcome, Jokas. Welcome, Jazzer Hazard. Welcome, everybody, to the chat. And thank you for chilling out with me. Again, I'll start with a little bit of a disclaimer. If you weren't around last week to share you guys what happened, why Matt isn't here, basically. He's still dealing with a bit of health issues, and so he asked us to fill in for him. So you'll have to deal with us. He's doing fine. He's just not quite fit enough to make videos or live streams. So I hope you guys understand, and I hope you guys feel like we are good enough replacements. We try our best. Also, my voice is still a little not the perfect yet because I've been a bit under the weather the entire week, and I have a little bit of a black eye because I was in a mosh pit on Friday, and mosh pits are awesome unless you get a shoulder to your eye socket. But anyway, I'm fine.
Look, there's no need to be modest. You guys should know the truth about this. Roy fought off 10 men by himself. You think that black eye's
Mm.
bad? You should see the other guys. They're finished. There is no
Yeah, they are.
stopping Bruiser Roy. So just don't get on his bad side, guys. I'm telling you, you don't want to do that.
Don't try and come for my friends. That's all I'm saying. No, I wasn't punched. It was like literally just an accident with a mosh pit. So yeah, it happens. It's part of a mosh pit. When you get a black eye after a metal concert, you know it's been a good one. So yeah. Either way, we are here to talk Eurovision, Gabe. Are you ready to get into the first country that we want to talk about?
I am so ready.
Well, then let's start. Let me get the video up. Talking about Poland, because it was the first one to release. Luna has been chosen to represent her country, Poland, at Eurovision 2024. She was chosen through an international process where 212 songs were submitted to the broadcaster. 5 jury members were then asked to hand in a top 10, which resulted in a combined ranking. Luna got points from 4 out of 5 jury members, scoring 34 points, which was one more point than second place Justina
Stechkowska.
Steskowska.
Stechkowska.
I tried, okay? The Polish names are difficult, you know. And Luna will be singing her song The Tower in the first semi-final. Now, Gabe, have you listened to the song and what were your thoughts about it?
So I have, and I quite like it. Apologies to those in chat who maybe like it more than me. It's an enjoyable song. It's a really nice vibe. It's very modern sounding, very refreshing. I kind of feel like it's not very Eurovision.
Okay.
And that doesn't have to be a problem because, I mean, we've talked at length before about how you should focus on just making a good song and the Eurovision bit works itself out. I would love some higher heights, some bigger climaxes in this song than what we have at the moment. I think you can probably build them in without undermining the spirit of the song as a whole. But personally, between this song and Justina's, I think I would have liked Justina's just a fraction more. So I'm happy, but I'm a little cautious on its chances. How about you?
Yeah, I preferred this song over Justina's actually. So it's a little interesting. a bit of a more normal indie pop song, I feel, and she's a very young artist. And what I'm most worried about maybe is if she can deliver this song well live and whether she can handle the entire Eurovision experience, because it's not nothing. And she's incredibly young and incredibly talented, but it's not easy to do something like it. The song itself, I get what you're saying about it not necessarily having that Eurovision kind of sound, which is not always a bad thing. But the danger with a song like this is that when you have like other songs competing next to it, it could get swallowed a little bit because they stand out a bit more. This is a good song to stream. It's a nice song to keep on repeat. It is catchy, but maybe it needs that little bit of a catchiness factor to really stuck in people's minds. And of course, we need to see the live performance as well. So yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't think it's a bad song. I enjoy it quite a bit. Maybe my first reaction wasn't the best, but I usually just need a bit more time with pop music, to be honest. But overall, I think it's pretty decent for Poland.
Yeah, no, I'd say so. I think, obviously, as someone in chat pointed out already, she's going to keep working on it. I think, and there's another artist I think we're going to discuss later in this stream for which this is very true. When you're a young artist as well, or you're maybe not the most experienced in terms of live performance, what that does mean is much like if you're a young athlete, you're going to run a personal best basically every time you go out there. It's the same thing when you're performing. You'll get better and better and better. Like the needle will just keep moving. So I'm excited to see how she develops over the course of the season and also how the performance matures through rehearsals. Poland does have a favorable draw, which means I think she will probably get a second bite of the cherry in the final, even in a tough semi. And that means we could really see a big improvement from the semi to the final as well. I hope she gets that chance because I think it would be really interesting to see what she's able to do with it if she does.
Yeah. It's good that you point out as well that it has a favorable draw. What you mean with it, it's probably that it's among other songs that like are a bit more out there, while this is more maybe tame in a way. So it can definitely stand out among the field. I get what you're saying with that each performance will improve. And especially with pre-parties, I think that could be the case. But I also feel like she is the type of voice that could get tired as well. And we know that Eurovision is a damn difficult thing to nail because you have to do so many interviews. Like artists sometimes just get treated like rag dolls. You have an interview here, an interview there. You need to have a performance there. You need to do a rehearsal, another rehearsal, another rehearsal. Like you see it so often that voice is getting incredibly tired. Like Stefania in 2021 or the Czech song in 2022.
May Muller.
Like they had May Muller as well. Yeah, like voices get really tired after Eurovision, and it's good that there's like a bit of time between Tuesday when her semifinal is and the grand final. But I don't know. I'm a little cautiously optimistic, but there's a lot of things that I'm still like, I'm not fully behind it yet.
Yeah. I think the other thing with the semi-final that makes it friendlier, it has Ireland. I believe the UK is voting in that semi, and it has Ukraine, which are pretty much, in terms of televoting, the three most prone to vote for Poland. As a result, I think that massively enhances, because if you get 30 points already from those three, you're most of the way there. Yeah. We saw a song qualify with 34 televote this year, just gone. So you're most of the way there as well. Someone in chat pointing out has Lithuania, it has Germany. So she doesn't necessarily have to be 100% at her best in the semi. There's room to maybe to peak in the final if she gets there, which I think is very likely.
Yeah, it's they definitely have like a lot of countries that have a lot of diaspora from Poland in there as well. And since it's televote only, like that can be a powerful thing. And regardless whether the song is good or not, sometimes those votes really shine through. And yeah, it's just only something that will help them.
For sure.
We have a question here from Fishy Cat. Would Poland make a good opener? What do you think?
No. I'm going to say in that semi, with that much, that many strong songs in the first half, I really, really don't think it would be a good opener. They're going to want something. It's semi-1 as well. They're going to want to open the contest with something bombastic. This is not bombastic. It needs to be a tonic between, you've got songs, we'll come on to Rim Tim Taggy Dim later, songs like that, songs like Doomsday Blue by Bambi Thug. These are loud, punchy songs. You need songs like this to break them up. If you put it at the start, you lose that ability, and it doesn't really get the energy going, doesn't really get the juices flowing, as it were. So I think it would be one of the worst choices, actually, to open the show. What do you think?
The thing is, at this moment, I'm not sure which other song I would have opened the show. Maybe Lithuania is the one I was thinking about the most, or like Ukraine, something like that. But a song like this does feel like it's more of an in-between song between like the more out there hype songs. Which is maybe a dangerous thing because we have a lot of those songs in there. So you're kind of stuck in a few slots that it can go. And I see a lot of people saying that maybe it could get a death slot. I could see it happen with this song.
I am skeptical, though. I mean, when it comes to death slots, there's 15 songs in the semi-final. I think it's people shouldn't start panicking. Like, I mean, we've talked about the favorable conditions for it. To be honest, and this may be a controversial opinion, if I was, any of the songs in that half, I would be fingers crossed thinking, please, 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 first or second. And I'll tell you why. If the producers put you first or second in the semi-final, they're not going to do it for the final. And when you have so many songs which are in it to win in that half, I mean, we'll talk about some of them later, you want to get that out of the way. You're going to qualify anyway. If you genuinely believe your package is strong enough to win the whole thing, you shouldn't be worried about queuing from the semi. And going first or second isn't really going to hurt you at all. So you want to perform first or second, because then you're not, if you draw first half of the final, you're going to be 12th or 13th. You're going to be in a position where plenty of songs have won from. So from a tactical point of view, pretty much no matter who you are, in that half, I would want to be first or second. Maybe I'm mad.
It really depends on the song, though, because the death slot has been a very much self-fulfilling prophecy, where they usually just put the weaker song in second place. And so it's kind of every single year you see the running order and you're like, okay, so the song they put in second, they think is one of the weakest. And it's just the statistics now back it up as well. It used to be running order slot 3, actually, but now it actually is number 2. And if the song is good enough, like if they'd put Ukraine or Croatia there or something, it would qualify, definitely. The thing is, EBU never does it. They always put a song there that's either borderline or just not good enough to qualify in the first place. So I don't know how much I would want a death slot, because then it's more or less the EBU saying, ooh, maybe we don't want you as much in the Eurovision Grand Final. But yeah, it's a bit of a like your opinion makes a lot of sense as well.
I just think that realistically, when you have Connor's in chat, hi Connor. When you have Rimton Tagidim, you have Luktalk, you have Teresa and Maria, all in this semi. These are the 3 songs that I don't want to spoil too much about our Croatia section. Where these are the songs that are in the conversation right now. I think it doesn't really matter what the producers think of you. I feel like I would just, if I was, especially, people are talking about Luktalk potentially. If Luktalk got drawn number 1, I think I said this last week, if I was the Lithuanian delegation, I'd be celebrating. You've just secured yourself an amazing slot for the final. They're not going to screw you twice. And it's blatantly obvious to everyone watching that Luktalk is going to qualify easily. I think with Poland as well, if they ended up performing second, that could be favorable for them. It is quite different in pacing to Luktalk. It's gonna qualify anyway because it has so much favorable conditioning with the televote. I just think that there's songs in this half that have room to be thinking tactically about this. Obviously, ultimately, they don't get to make the decision. The songs will go where they go. But if you lock yourself in for a good place in the final early on, that's a big advantage, especially in a year like this where it's looking so open.
Yeah, the counter argument is that we've said in the past as well that Poland has a lot of those diaspora votes, but the past couple of years, it's not been that much showing through for Poland. Like there have been some non-qualifications. Like last year, they went through, of course, but before that, they were struggling for a little bit as well. I mean, the year before that, not really, because it was Ochman, but with the ride, for example, that didn't go through to the final either. So maybe the vote isn't as powerful as you think, and would then putting this song in second be such a great thing for Poland? I'm not sure. Like, I get your argument for maybe the more big favorites like Lithuania or Croatia or Ukraine, but with Poland, it's a bit more of a borderline thing for me at this moment.
Well, I think, Antoine in chat has just pointed out, Poland has been a televote non-qualifier once since 2014. And immediate and this, to be honest, like in my opinion, it's not their strongest song. So they could use the positional help in the final. I just think it feels like Poland probably isn't all that worried. When the song is good, as we've seen, when the song is strong, they've been activated, if you like. The diaspora has risen to it. And while this isn't going to win the contest, I think it's easily strong enough for the Polish diaspora to go, yeah, this is a nice song, we'll vote for it. That said, I think we should be careful because this has enough strength and plenty of merit to qualify without that. And I think it could still do that. I just think that's obviously going to be a bonus for it. And it has a lot of friends in the semi-final that will see it through.
Yeah, it's a solid song, but I still need to see it. It's also a little bit of a song that could also fade into the background if the live performance doesn't fully fill the song as much as the studio version does, and that is my biggest fear at the moment. So right now, if you held me at gunpoint, I would not be sure to say that it would qualify or not. Like, that would be a difficult question for me at this time. But you think that it will qualify, I assume, then?
Yeah, I think it will. I mean, full disclosure, I also thought Georgia was going to come third in its semi last year, and it then didn't qualify. So I don't have necessarily the best form on this one, but yeah, no, I think it's qualifying. I think it's going to be fine.
Okay. By the way, if you have a question for us, please use @ESCUnited so we know it is directed to us and you're not just chatting to a lot of the other Eurofans that are in this chat, which is always lovely to do as well. But when you have a question for us, please use @ESCUnited so we can see it better. So Shauria Khanna, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. People are comparing it to Slovenia. In your mind, which one is stronger? Now, Gabe, do you think it should be compared to Slovenia, and which one of the two would you prefer?
These songs are not similar. I'm a bit surprised by the comparison, actually, because I don't think I've actually seen that. If I was saying my personal preference between the two, I would say Slovenia, but I don't really think it's a fair comparison. You can't really judge these two songs face to face on what are they doing X as well as each other, because different voices, very different musical backgrounds, very different styles, different languages, different type. That doesn't seem to be much to go off on a sort of blow by blow comparison here. I do think Slovenia's prospects are better, but I imagine we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we can open or talk
when
about
see if it comes up in the Q&A.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really get this comparison either. I think Raven is more of a different structured song as well, and it's just a bit more of a theatrical piece, where this is more of a pop radio song, moreover. So I don't really see the comparison that much either. I would prefer Slovenia, but that's personal preference. Either way, is there any other question? Let's take a little look. Oh, is there something coming in? Yes, there is. This is really about Poland. Do you think, as Eurofans, we are putting down quieter songs this year because this competition has so many loud songs trying to use the Kereale 3 formula? That's what Alistair is asking. I don't know. Like, I get what you're saying. And there is more of an effect when a song is very much in your face and very hype. And maybe we are forgetting a little bit about the quieter songs, but you also have to remember that there is no juries in do the semifinals. Like, honestly, if there was a jury in the semifinals and Luna nails her vocals, I think it would have had a lot better chance than only with the televote. I mean, of course, the Hespra can help, but yeah, I don't know. The quieter songs will stand out, but it has to still be a very good quiet song to stand out, I think. What do you think?
I think actually, if anything, the opposite is happening. I think if you look at the discourse now, for the first time in a in quite a while, I think there are a lot of people going, "Where are the ballads? We want more ballads." You know, and I kind of agree that it would be nice to have a couple more ballads to mix it up a bit. I think that Carrier let 3 formula. I don't think there is a formula as such. You know, because you could easily look and say, oh well, before them there was Moldova in 2022, and they had an up-tempo fun song which did well with the televote. Like, there has always been a variety of genres and so on. I think the reason why I think people are making some quite lazy comparisons at the minute and making very surface level comparisons where they're saying, oh well, phonically this sounds kind of similar, or oh, it's a similar tempo, or oh, this costume is similar, or whatever. And when it doesn't really wash, it's like you're not engaging with. People need to engage with the material they're being given properly, and you know, otherwise we could get lost in these comparisons forever. Of oh, so and so ripped off so and so because they both did a ballad. You know, it's just, you know, no one's saying, oh, Veronica is a song that's a rip off of Molitva. That's an objectively ridiculous thing to say, and I feel like people are doing the same things here. Songs can be stylistically along the same lines without being rip-offs of each other. That's just how I feel about it. But yeah, no. So I think the opposite is going to happen. Sorry, I lost my train of thought and went off on a rant. The opposite is going to happen. I actually think people are going to overvalue ballads as a result because they are at a premium.
Yeah. I think we pretty much say the same thing there. I don't know. I think the comparisons are always a little bit silly anyways, because like, just enjoy the music. You don't need to compare. You need to compare everything that's in a certain year because they're competing against each other. But why compete something from 2021 with a song from 2022? It doesn't matter because they're not competing against each other. So locals will probably not remember that much about it anyway. So it won't matter that much, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's time to move on to the next country. And that country is, let's see if I have the correct video. I should have. Musti has already chosen as the Belgian representative back in August. And this past Tuesday, they also released his song Before the Party Is Over. The song is written by Musti together with a decently experienced team that also wrote songs like Bridges to l'Univers or City Lights. Musti will be singing his song Before the Party Is Over in the second semi-final. Gabe, have you listened to the song? What do you think about it? What do you think about it?
Yes, I think this is a really good prospect for Belgium to reach into the upper ends of the scoreboard, potentially a top 5 even. I think we were talking about songs which are a bit calmer and have that build, maybe a little more ballady. This is more along that line, and I think it definitely filled a space that needed to be filled. The vocal is great. I love the kind of dark atmosphere of it, and the crescendo into the final minute feels so natural. So I think they've really done an excellent job. And I mean, that team, those songs you just quoted, clearly are really onto something because they put together something really impressive. If I could have one tiny criticism, he maybe repeats the phrase "before the party's over" a few too many times in the last minute. But that does have, you know, without it getting too ostentatious, of course, that does create some space to maybe fix that problem and add some vocal acrobatics and so on. Add a little bit on that front. You've created the atmosphere for it, and it breaks up the repetition of the final section a little bit. So overall, I'm very impressed. It's not going to win Eurovision, but it's going to be Belgium's best result since at least 2017. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what you say. I think this is a very good entry by Belgium. Like you can just hear in this studio version alone that his live performance will be incredible. His voice sounds like it's even capable of even more than what he's already showing in that little studio version. And I also wanted to point out that the final minute is basically him just repeating the line before the party is over. But I also think that every single time he says it, he sings it a little bit differently, and he really showcases his vocals and his range in such a way. And I think that can be very effective. We also already see a really good music video and an idea of where the broadcaster could go with his staging, perhaps. It already looks very good. Now, to be fair, Belgium is usually pretty good at making a good video. And then sometimes they don't necessarily nail it on the stage at Eurovision. And so I hope this time they will be able to nail it, because I am very enthusiastic about this. It's the song together with France that I'm really having my eye on for one of the jury favorites to score highly there and perhaps get a really good result. Like you said, top five, if they stage it correctly, if Musi nails the vocals, it can definitely be in the cards for Belgium. And yeah, honestly, it's a really, really good song, and I'm very happy that Belgium chose something like this again. Even though we had a great party banger last year, it's nice to have a great vocal in the competition as well again. So I'm very enthusiastic about Belgium.
Oops, sorry, I accidentally knocked my microphone onto mute. Yeah, no, I think I think the enthusiasm is well placed. I'm expecting a strong live performance. It is interesting how sometimes you can listen to a record and go, this guy can clearly sing it live. And sometimes you can listen and go, oh, this is a tough vocal. Is he going to be able to perform this? But the way he sings, it feels controlled. It feels comfortable.
Yeah.
And so your confidence is kind of enhanced by that. Obviously, I imagine we'll have more clues in the coming weeks. I think jury winner is definitely on the cards. On the cards. A jury winner is definitely on the cards. It's been a long evening, yes. Okay? A jury win is definitely on the cards. I think it's more likely to... I don't understand why people aren't putting more emphasis on that. Every time an up-tempo song gets picked, I see everyone going, oh, France this, France that, France. This is a way stronger song than Mon Amour in basically every department. Obviously, the one thing that they're both amazing at is the vocals are out of this world.
Yeah.
This maybe will suffer slightly with the televote, but is, it could be on for a jury win. That's why I think it could come top five. Yeah. And as such, I think, we have to be optimistic about his chances. I'm really excited to see it live. I'm really curious to see what he does. There's space to change things in this song if he wishes. So will we see anything different vocally? We could. I'd be excited to.
Yeah, and I think as well, in this music video, his passion that he puts into the song is already showing so much. And I think if you can put that passion on the stage as well, that often translates pretty well to the people at home, because they'll be like, oh, this is really good. Like, this is what he is good at. And ballads don't always do terribly with the televote, of course. And usually when somebody sees that this is what they're doing, this is their good craft, then that will also very much translate into televote points. So I don't think it's necessarily going to perform incredibly badly at a televote, even though a lot of songs are coming from the semifinals, which have televote only. Yeah. But I think, it's going to do amazingly. And I, as well, cannot wait to see it being performed live. I expect some smoke, I expect some dark lighting, I expect some good camera angles, and a lot of passion, really, from Musti. And I can't wait to hear him in the pre-parties as well, because I think that could be a really nice moment too.
Yeah, I think I should be clear, when I say suffer with the televote, I'm talking like 8th, 9th. What I'm saying is, I think if we're in a scenario where, because we're in a very even edition at the moment, if we're in a scenario where this song, for example, comes first or second to the jury vote, but 9th with the televote, and someone comes 4th with both, then that song is going to leapfrog this one. That's what I mean by suffering the, suffering the televote. I think obviously it's a dead cert qualifier. I think you'll be hard pressed to produce a better, ballad, especially like commercially speaking, out of this edition. I think it clears obviously Veronica is more of a performance song than
Yeah.
a radio play song. I think the same is true over Mon Amour. That will give it an advantage as well. And if we're thinking about in the run up to the contest, what songs are going to get played on the radio internationally, this is probably one of them. So, like I say, I mean, do I think it's going to win? No. Do I think it's going to do as well with the televote as it will with the jury? Also, no. Could it come top 5? I think it's very likely. So, I am optimistic. I'm just cautiously optimistic at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I basically agree with that statement as well. Jeremy is saying, I think Belgium can be a jury winner in the final if the live vocals are good. It's basically what we've been saying so far, to be honest. The last minute of the song could be so epic if he slays the vocals. What do you guys think about that? Well, I think we basically covered all of that already so far, because that's what we've been most enthusiastic about, to hear his live vocals and see that final minute be performed. I think that could be really epic. Then we have Euro Die saying, I'm getting a Sheldon Riley feeling about Misty. He'll storm the semi-final, but come about 15th in the final. Do you feel something similar?
No.
Me neither.
I gotta say, no, I disagree with you on this one, Die. I think the thing we got to remember with Sheldon Riley is he got absolutely murdered by being next to Sam Ryder. Among other things. I think that song was nowhere near as strong as this. I think it didn't feel as coherent. It did that really annoying thing, which I really don't like when they do it in ballads, where you have this big build up and then it all just drops away.
Yeah.
You built all this energy and then you lost it. And then you go all the way back to full energy again. Like, that song had a lot of problems that this one doesn't. As much as I really understand the sort of the mask identity and stuff with Sheldon as well, a really important thing with Eurovision is eye contact and interacting with the camera. That prevented him from doing that. And as a result, you're kind of stuck. Natalie points out as well, he had Cornelia Jacobs in his neighborhood as well. It's not exactly the easiest pair of songs to be competing against.
No, definitely not. And to be honest, I think the songs, like the repetition of Sheldon's song, was a lot more in your face and maybe a little bit more annoying, because that it was in every chorus where he repeated the same words. And with this, it really builds from something small, and then towards the ending, it like builds and builds and builds, and then there's the repetition, but also the more epic feeling to the song. So I'm not sure if you can really compare the two very well. Maybe they do something with stairs, though. I wouldn't advise it, but hey, maybe.
I'm generally not a fan of stairs in Eurovision. I hope they leave them at home this time.
Yeah. Verneri is asking, can Musti win his semi-final? I think this is a bit more tough for him, because the semifinals are now, of course, televote only since last year, and it is in a semifinal where you also have songs like The Netherlands. We haven't heard it yet, but it's likely to be a very out there song. You have Estonia there, you have Norway there, who likely do very well with a televote. So I'm not sure if he's going to win the semifinal. I think it's more likely that he won't, and then just outperforms his semifinal performance by doing well in the juries in the grand final. What do you think?
I agree. I don't think he's going to win the semi-final. I think probably, if I had to say now, out of all the songs we have, Estonia is the most televote friendly in that semi. But I suspect the Netherlands will come close. There's question marks there, of course, and we should put an asterisk on this, is that we really don't know what Estonia will look like with a budget, and if they get the vocals fully together and everything. So that could end up in whole kind of different ways. I also think that out of that semi-final, we shouldn't forget Gorta are at Eurovision on the basis of a strong televote showing. I know that that there will be a segment of people who hate it and don't get it. There'll be a big segment of people who really love it and vote for it. I think they have more of a potential. We have more songs coming. I mean, we have Marina Sati in that semi-final. We have songs like Pedestal by Aiko. Again, if she gets it together, could be really, really good. I mean, Megara are going to pick up at quite a few points, I think, in that semi-final, because they're going to be visually distinctive. The vocals will be good. You know, it has that really memorable bridge and all of that. There's a lot of things that he's competing against here, and there's still more to come. So I would say it's unlikely at the moment. Could he? Yes. Will he? Probably not.
I don't think so either. No, there's just too much competition in that semifinal. Although the other semifinal might be arguably stronger based on countries' merits, but the songs, the type of songs that have come out.
That
Yeah,
semi,
oh no, 100%.
It's ridiculous. Like, I genuinely can't believe you have a first half now where you have Rintin Tagidim, Liar, Doomsday Blue, Luktelk, The Tower, and Teresa and Maria. You still have Serbia to come. Like, between that, you're going to produce the most terrifying half of a semi-final, like, in the history of Eurovision.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and then it's
I put it on screen. It's
sorry, go on.
I put it on screen. These are the songs in semifinal 1 at the moment that are known. I put the one from Cyprus in yellow, in a little yellow box, because it's not out yet, of course. But yeah, this looks like it's already so many out there televote type songs. Like, it'll be a tough one.
Yeah, it is funny though. If you look at that, you look at the second half of the semi-final, and no offense to Tali and Natalia Barbu, but they're not exactly stacking up to Luktelk and Teresa and Maria, are they? Like,
Don't underestimate Moldova.
It starts, obviously, never underestimate Moldova, but like, it starts strong, and then it does kind of climax a little earlier than we'd hope for. Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I'm personally terrified. I think we're going to end up in a position where a lot of people are going to be losing favorites in that semi, because something's got to give. There's going to be too many songs for them all to qualify.
Yeah. I have another question from Antoine Madelon. I could actually see it doing pretty well in the televote if it draws second half, because the final minute is that impactful. I was actually thinking about this as well. It is one of those songs that could maybe rely a lot on the running order, and if it's getting a favorable first half or second half. Like, if it's first half, I'm not sure if they're going to push it towards the latter half of that first half. And if it gets second half, it doesn't really matter. You're in the second half. It's going to be a good running order spot. And if it gets first half, maybe it gets to be in the show a bit too early to do incredibly well with the televote. I don't know. That could be a little bit of a danger for an incredible finish for Belgium. What do you think?
I think you could definitely end up with, if this song performs fourth or fifth, it's in trouble.
Yeah.
For the reasons you just outlined. I think at the same time, especially if it stays as high in the odds as it is, I don't think the producers are going to really heavily skew it. Really heavily screw it. I don't think if it comes into the contest and it's fourth or fifth in the betting odds, they're going to put it in ninth or 10th if it's in the first half earliest. I don't think it would be the last song before the end of the half, but we've got to remember is that the producers are very careful, clearly. I mean, although they've never publicly said what it is they do, they clearly avoid giving favorites bad spots for this reason. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. I do think it'll be impactful, basically, as long as it's after 7th or 8th, all will be well. So I would say that you're going to get that impact no matter what. It's about how much it sticks with people on the night. And I could be wrong. I just think that there'll be other things that stick with people more.
I also don't think it is at this moment seen as one of the big favorites, and it's going to depend on how people will pick up on it running up towards Eurovision, because like the pre-parties are going to be so important for Belgium, I think, because I think that's where he can really impress a lot of people. And then, people start talking about it and it gets some traction, and then more people start talking about it. And that's how sometimes you can get so much momentum that you get a good running order slot, and then you can do well at Eurovision. Like, there's so many factors besides just the song and the staging, like doing well with the press and doing well at pre-parties. They're all important. And Belgium can be a very big beneficiary from that.
Yeah, I think obviously the information war is sort of more important than ever now. I mean, it really feels, if you take a perfect example of this, Mia and Dion, is that they felt dead on arrival by the time you got to Eurovision, because the pre-party season was so brutal for them. I have to say, not through any fault of their own. I think a lot of blame goes to the broadcaster and goes to Duncan Lawrence, who for long periods of time, it felt like he downed tools and left them to, deal with the pressure by themselves. That kind of thing. You arrive at Eurovision and the entire narrative is, oh, their vocals always been really shaky. Will they even be able to sing the song? Like, what you end up with when the bar is set that low, when you've had to make so many changes because of all of these problems, you end up in a position where the confidence isn't projected on stage. People watch the performance with a nervousness, being like, it feels like this could go wrong at any moment. You've already lost in that situation, because even if you do well, they're like, oh, well, they did all right, surprisingly. It's not a good, you don't want the assumed position to be bad. On the flip side, you have songs where they go and do the pre-parties or whatever, and everyone loves them, and then they come to rehearsals and it's way better than expected, and it can go in the complete opposite direction. So you can make a late charge in that way now. He is fifth in the odds, as we are, so I don't think he has to really push it that far. If he stays in the top 5, top 6 in the odds, they're not going to really mess him about, I would suspect. Then again, you never know.
I was not aware he was that high up.
Yeah, no, we've got at the moment we've got him in 5th, and then we've got another song we'll come on to in the top 5 as well. Ukraine and Italy in the top positions as well. Iceland 4th, but no song from them yet. But we will also be talking about that later. So,
yep. And I think that's a perfect bridge to go to the next country, which is not Iceland, but I mean, I think we've talked at length about Belgium at this point. And the next country that we should be talking about is the next country that decided through their national final, which is San Marino. The band Megara will be flying the flag for San Marino at Eurovision this year. After a full week of competition, and even before that, some audition rounds, they needed a second chance round to get into the 17-song grand final of Una Voce per San Marino. The results were revealed from 17th to 1st, where Loredana, Bertè, and Megara were the final 2 left. Megara managed to convince the 5-person jury the most and will bring us a song 11.11 in the second semi-final of Eurovision 2024. I don't know in which language you should pronounce 11.11, probably in Spanish, but they don't mention it at all in the song, so I didn't know. What do you think about the song? Did they make the right choice? Did you watch the show? What did you think of the show? What do you think of the song? Let me know. Talk about it.
So, well, I think it was a great choice, and I love this song, but first, I just want to highlight the absolute genius of convincing an absolute legend in Loredana Bertè to take her San Remo song, bring it to Una Voce per San Marino, get her to stand on stage because she's made it to the final 2, and then give the prize to someone else. Like, that is incredible, and it is possibly the funniest thing that any broadcaster has done this season. Like, that is genuinely hilarious. As for the choice, I think it is a really, really good one, because Megara are an act that scream Eurovision to me. The reason I say that is the visuals are so striking. They already had a lot of the choreo in place, and I can see how they would adapt it to that bigger stage. We've seen when they had the resources at Benidorm Fest, the stage show they produced was absolutely exceptional. I think it's going to take a step up for Eurovision, and we should remember that because of the way they run Una Voce per San Marino actually has a decent budget for Eurovision, because they make so much money by extracting a couple of €100 from about 1,000 to 1,500 deluded, idiots who audition every year, that you end up with a decent pot to work with. So I think we could really be onto something quite exciting here. And I really love the song. Big shout out to the sort of flamenco bridge they have in the middle of it, because that is going to be one of the best drops of the season. My favorite bit. But, if there's one man who knows his rock and his metal and who is best qualified to talk about that, it's you. So I want to hear what you think of this song, because yours is the opinion that I will respect most on this.
I mean, you nailed it saying that this. I mean, it was already a visual feast in this grand final from San Marino, which says a lot. Like, it is not a selection that is usually known to have great visuals and great sound producing and stuff. But it's a pretty good song, and you highlighted the flamenco part in between as well. I think that's such a lovely touch where you just break it down for a moment and just after flamenco clapping commence, you can really stage that nicely as well. And then afterwards, you like bring it down to a nicer low level to then burst open in the final chorus. Then in the ending, you have that breakdown happening, which happens way too short, in my opinion, because it's like 2 seconds and then, oh, song over,
Mm.
which is a little unfortunate. I would have loved to see like a full breakdown, but that's maybe just the metal head in me speaking. But I think this is also a song that could just appeal to more people in general. Like, rock music is very underappreciated in Eurovision often, and I mean, we have seen recent examples of it changing a little bit with Italy in 2021 or Finland in 2021 as well. Even last year. With Cha 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 in a way. I mean, it wasn't fully rock, but we also saw Australia winning the semi-final, of course, and Germany deserved better. Uh, but it is still a little bit of an underappreciated genre within the fandom. I think locals are more receptive to it, maybe. And like you said, Megara, they had a visual feast in Benidorm Fest, and they had much more budget to play with there. And even that budget is probably not as much as you will have at Eurovision. So if they work together with a good team, if they can bring out all of their ideas nicely onto the stage, it will be a feast to watch. And they're in a good semi-final as well. So I'm pretty optimistic for San Marino, which is a nice change.
Yeah, the same. And I wasn't sure I was really expecting to be. But if I look at the songs around it, right now in this semi final, the closest thing it's competing with is Ulvaham. But Ulvaham's appeal is going to be so broad. I think he's probably going to be. I think this is probably going to sort of separate itself. And we also shouldn't. We also shouldn't. I cannot speak today. We also shouldn't make the mistake of throwing all the rock and metal entries into one box, because this is a very, very different song to Ulvaham. It doesn't draw on anything like the same kinds of influences. If we look forward at the other songs that are there, where is the challenge coming from? Because the songs that are not revealed, but we already know their names, which you've highlighted in yellow there, we know that they're not going to be rock or metal.
No.
Ico, Pedestal, again, very, very different song. I don't think there's much of a crossover there. I think it's unlikely we're going to get a metal song from Armenia, and we know we won't from either Nutzer, or if they're even in the contest, it'll be with that October Rain song, which we know is a ballad, essentially, when it comes to Israel. That gives it this really clear direction of travel towards the final. The other thing is, this semi-final, as it stands, I'm counting in my head, it has 4, 8, 12, 16 songs in it.
Yep.
Israel is a quite likely qualifier, I would say, on the basis of, while there's very strong feelings, there's probably enough people who feel very strongly one way about Israel to vote for it no matter what. And that would potentially help it in the semi-final. It doesn't have Germany, which will lose it some points. But that's what I would suspect happened. If Israel drops out, which, like we say, we don't know yet, then you've only got 15 songs. Then you only need to be the 10th best out of 15. And I find it hard to believe that there's going to be 10 songs that people prefer over this one. I think it's really strong, and I'm really excited for it, especially when you think about the fact that it's got something like Malta. And if the performance doesn't improve, I would probably say the same for Czechia, which are at the moment not looking likely to qualify. Same for Albania as well, actually. Sorry, because I really like Bess's song. But so I think
it's going to get a revamp.
Position, so. Yeah, we never know what's going to happen. But its position right now, I would say, is favourable. And it's the best chance San Marino have had to qualify in a few years.
Yeah, I mean, I really loved Aquila Lauro's song as well, but I mean, that was a bit more bonkers, balls to the walls, rock music, just throw everything and the kitchen sink at it and hope for the best. And I feel like Megara is a little more structured and a little bit more thought out about what they can do with the staging. And if Aquila Lauro already did so well and got so close to qualifying, I think Megara might have a better shot at it as well. Yeah, I'm very enthusiastic about their chances, and that is something different. And what you pointed out as well with the Norway being the only contender, Norway is like a metal ballad. This is more of an electro rock. It kind of goes towards metal towards the end, but maybe not fully. It is very different. Visually, it will be incredibly different as well. Like this will be very neon, like we saw in the national final performance, whereas Norway will be very dark. And also Czechia is also a very different song. It's more of like an indie rock song, and the types of rock and metal are totally different. And people, they always say, "Oh, it's rock. Oh, it's all one thing," but it's not the case. It's always very different, and they will have different audiences. Yeah, pretty exciting stuff, I think, from San Marino. Let's see if there's any questions. What do you think will they do for staging when they have budget? Do you have any ideas, maybe?
I think they clearly have a core concept in mind already. I think the thing they have with the two dances, it seems very likely they're going to keep it. They've designed that whole scene at the end around, the dancers almost holding the singer in their arms. That's quite a powerful visual, and I would be surprised to see them lose it. I think with Megara, what I'm looking for is whether they'll have more onstage props like they had with the puppets on a string. They had this kind of, capsule that the singer burst out of when they staged Arcadia. They've also had things like video game influences. There was a dance mat section in Arcadia, which I thought, as someone who loves rhythm games, that was really cool. So I think that there's going to be some surprises, but I think we do have some clues already. They clearly have a concept in mind that they've tried to articulate as best they can on that tiny little stage. And we'll see sort of a dramatic step forward, I imagine, in this respect, in the actual show.
Yeah, I think so as well. I also see Jazzer Hazard saying that they have difficulty recalling the song after listening to it a couple of times. I will say that it might miss a little bit of a catchy hook, perhaps, but I think it has enough visual elements to really be memorable. And you don't always need to have that hook to really be stuck in people's minds. If they see a recap, something very colorful, something very out there, they'll remember it and they might pick up the phone for it. And you don't always need super catchy hook, I think.
And let's remember the context that it's in. If you have this song directly after Latvia, for example, it's going to be like a punch in the face. It's a busy half in terms of upbeat songs, sort of like, quite like songs. I know this isn't song, but it's a bit more, dramatic in its execution. You do have Estonia, you do have the Netherlands, and I mean, it seems quite likely that Joost Klein is going to do something energetic.
Definitely.
But if it's around, if the songs immediately next to it are calmer, it could really, really stand out. It can sort of make you go, whoa, here we are. Like I said, I'm optimistic. I don't think it's going to get drowned out. I think the visuals will massively add to it. I think it's going to be a much more memorable performance live, and that breakdown will be a moment. Like, it will be a memorable moment. You only need people to latch on to one thing. And that could be the one thing for me.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. And I don't really see many questions about San Marino, so I think we should just move on to the next country. And that country is Croatia. Baby Lasagna has been chosen as the act for Croatia to participate in this year's Eurovision. 2 semi-finals resulted in a grand final of 16 songs where a mix of jury and televote scores would decide the winner. Baby Lasagna already got first place after the jury votes. When the televote came in, it was clear that they smashed the competition. He scored 247 points, which was a massive 53.6% of the entire televote score. And he will be performing his song Rim Tim Tagidim in the first half of the first semi-final. Gabe, did you watch Dora, and what did you think of the show? What do you think of the song? What do you think of its chances?
Yes, I did watch Dora this year, and I'm going to get the negativity out of the way now because I'm so excited about this song that I think I want to put it in a nice little negative box and then just go, whoo! This is a masterpiece performance from the broadcaster on how to do the right thing while simultaneously alienating everyone and making them hate you. Now, I'm sure many in chat will have heard the story of this entry already, but I think it's worth telling again, just to really spell out how, firstly, how much of a fairy tale story this could be for Baby Lasagna, and secondly, just how lucky the broadcaster is to end up with an entry like this. On the original 24 songs participating, this did not appear. It was listed as a reserve entry, but then when another artist dropped out, Baby Lasagna was drafted in at the last minute. He had just a month, less than everyone else, just a month to do a music video, prepare his performance, do all of the promo, get everything ready, become physically fit enough to do what was a quite physically demanding choreo. Then you get to the live shows, and the broadcast, the sound engineering is terrible. The stage is, to be honest, it was dark. The crowd was tiny. The mixing was off. There was so much wrong here. And you had a broadcaster where the head of delegation was saying, "Oh, we've gone up so much in the odds because people like Let 3 so much." Like, so you have a broadcaster that doesn't understand what it's doing at all. You're in the national final by accident. You're an unsigned artist until very recently. You've never performed solo on TV in your life. That was the Baby Lasagna context coming into this. And he comes in and wins with 4 times as many points as anyone else. Like, if that isn't the most incredible story, like, and you know how much of a sucker I am for these kinds of narratives, then I don't know what is. And now I've got all that negativity about HRT, and Croatian media are cooking them today for what has happened, and rightly so. I just think this is the most amazing opportunity for Croatia. I think it's the favourite to win right now, comfortably. I think it's an absolute lock for top 5 at a minimum. There's just... It's catchy. You get it on the first listen. And one thing I've really noticed, I've been seeing this on my timeline and so on, is people saying, usually I would hate this type of music. Usually I don't like this style of music, but I like this. That is how you win Eurovision. You produce something which is distinctive, which is, unique, and represents your true musical expression, represents the kind of style that you want to create, but is accessible enough that lots of people who maybe wouldn't usually listen to that style of music come out and vote for it. That's what Baby Lasagna has done. This is such an amazing opportunity for Croatia. It is, in my eyes, the favorite right now to win. I am so excited. I just hope that now we're in the hands of an actually competent production team in Sweden, that the performance, when it comes to it, will do him justice. It was so clear how much he improved in a short time over the period of the Dora week. He has 3 months to get this right now, and I am really excited. Last thing which I missed from my start thing is also he wrote, produced, and mastered this song himself in his bedroom, and his long-term partner, she produced the music video and directed it.
Mental.
It's just the whole story is amazing. It is just the best story ever. He had like 50 Spotify listeners before this. It's wonderful. Anyway, sorry. You have some opinions, Roy. Say some things, because I'm about to.
Oh boy,
go
do
off
I
on
wish
one.
I could be negative about this song, but I have to echo a lot of what you say. This song is incredible. I play handball, for the people who don't know, and we had an away game this weekend, and the song wasn't even selected yet, but we had like a joint queue, and I was like, you know what, let's just put Rim Team Target Him in there. And I was like, I'm not even going to say that this is in the running for anything Eurovision. And often my teammates are a bit like, ooh, Eurovision, ooh, I don't like it, I hate it. They were loving this song. Like, literally, the first chorus, you have that whoa. The second time the whoa-ho came in, 2 of my teammates already started saying, whoa. That is so powerful. And that will only be amplified in the arena. It will be amplified by people at home. It's memorable. It has a great staging. He is a bloody rock star. Like, he rocked that stage. it's mental to see him being such a professional for how little performance experience he has. Really, uh, this is a visual great piece as well. The only thing, will people in Europe love rock music as much? I mean, we had Keria last year. That was very much rock and metal influence as well. And that kind of smashed the televote by him, the landslide. I really hope Croatia and HRT don't drop the ball with this one, because they have gold in their hands and they just really need to cash it in and make sure that it is used to its fullest potential. Because, boy, this is incredible. And I see somebody saying he's such a humble guy as well. I talked about the press being very important, pre-parties being very important. He will now have a lot of attention from the press, and being somebody very humble is something very good, because you're very down to earth. You can speak to the press very nicely, and then people start to think about you more positively. More of a snowball effect. Everything is kind of in place, and just pull the right strings, have a good staging, make sure it sounds good live, improve on everything a little bit. Because is it perfect? No. Should it be perfect? Also, no, it's rock music. Why should it be perfect? That's boring. Don't be Sweden. It's going to be a really awesome journey. I'm sorry.
It's fine. Don't
yeah.
be. You're right.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this one. It's going to be really fun, and I cannot wait to hear what other people think about it, and especially locals. Like, I cannot wait to hear people's opinions. I'm already really looking forward to Film Friends React, when all of my friends who aren't really into Eurovision, I mean, they are into it a little bit, but they are not as into it as me. They'll listen to this song, and I'm pretty sure a lot of them will like it, and I cannot wait for that already. So yeah, I should stop rambling as well. Like, I just love this song. It's my first place at the moment, and no, I'm not even going to stop rambling. Like, these lyrics are incredibly impressive as well. Like, they really resonate with me, because I come from a town that doesn't even have 2,000 inhabitants, and I now also live in a city. And for the first 2-3 years, I was struggling quite a lot to adjust to the city life. And so a lot of these lyrics for me are, I get what he is saying. And for maybe some people who live in the city, it might be a little bit more difficult to comprehend. But sometimes still, I'm like, whoa, okay, these city people are a bit different, maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
actually, no, I
It
can
really
actually.
resonates.
I can completely. I think there's a lot of examples of this, and it's not just in the Balkan sense. I think the what happens in the Balkans with flight into the cities is actually an experience that can resonate with people elsewhere as well. You give the example in the Netherlands. I think we can make the same example. For example, in the UK, I'm from a city, a pretty big city, Newcastle, with 300,000 inhabitants, 1 million people in the surrounding area. For those of you who know what a Newcastle accent sounds like, by the way, you'll know I do not have one. I wish I did. It's only when I say the word 30, it suddenly jumps out like 30, dirty. And suddenly I'm like, wow, okay, there it is. But a lot of people end up in London essentially from necessity, and doing what I do, working in the industry I work in, you have to be in London. Basically, there's no other option. So you have, again, this flight of young people away from other parts of the country into big cities. You could probably say the same thing, for example, basically in a lot of countries where they have a single city as their major focal point. I know there's a lot of discourse, for example, around how difficult it is for young people to live in Dublin because of the house prices and so on, because of the amount it costs to rent there. But at the same time, the fact that because the economy is very centered around Dublin, people have to find a way. I think this is something that happens in a lot of different countries. Take, for example, a lot of young people moving from southern Italy to northern Italy, or people moving in general across Europe. Massive migrant communities that exist in Western European countries because people have left their homes in pursuit of better opportunities elsewhere. So actually, I think it's a message that can really resonate with people, and it's quite easy to understand, as you say, from the first listen. When you combine that with how catchy and fun the song is, people are going to get it. They're going to hear it once, they're going to get it, because it's simple and complex at the same time. And that's what makes it amazing. I've forgotten what the question was. Did
that
I
was
answer
a question?
it?
You just rambled after me. No, we were just talking about the meaning. And like, the Netherlands is also a great example, because I come from Groningen, which is like the province in the north, and I come from a small town there. And then usually people from the small towns, they'll have to travel to the capital city of Groningen, which is also called Groningen. Complex, I know. But then still, there is not that much around. So the people will have to move towards the bigger cities, which is like Amsterdam, Rotterdam, The Hague, Utrecht. Those big cities, that is where most people will go to in the Netherlands. And I think in many countries this is the case, and that will resonate with people, especially when you listen to the lyrics. I think they are very nicely portrayed. I think it's easy to understand that even if you don't speak English as incredibly, you can still understand the meaning of the song. Even like meow cat say meow back. I think that makes it nice and light as well. It's so good. I cannot stop talking about it really. But maybe we should answer some questions from
Yeah.
people.
I think the
Or do
other
you have
thing
anything more to add?
is, the only thing I have to add is actually it'll this is a thing that works both ways as well. And there was a really good video of old Croatians watching this, and watching the music video and being really quite affected by it and really loving it, because for them as well, their kids move away, their grandkids grow up in faraway places. They're affected by this too. It makes me think of, again, we could draw. I'm deliberately picking things from all over Europe here to make the point that it's so accessible across. I remember I saw a video about Visaginas in Lithuania, which is a town where there are essentially no young people at all, because there is massive flight away because there are simply no opportunities there. And
Yeah.
for the parents and grandparents who are left behind, that's a really difficult experience, to be far away from your children, especially if they've moved long distances across to other countries. I mean, if we cast our mind back in Eurovision, this is a theme that's come up before. If you remember De La Carpat from several years ago from Romania, that song was literally promotional material for a charity that encouraged Romanian people emigrating out of Romania to take their children with them, so that, to not split up families and so on. So you have a lot of really sad and quite personal, very relatable stories under here that actually a huge proportion of Europe is going to understand. Again, I'm basically being like dust in the turkey naming countries. Think about the 20% of Spanish young people who are unemployed and are having to flock to cities like Barcelona and Madrid, the places where the economy at least is offering some jobs, some employment. They're forced to do this in order to live, in order to exist, to have an independent life as adults that doesn't revolve around waiting at home for something to happen. I'm getting like quite het up about this because this is something that I really relate to as well. I live where I do, and I live the life I do, partly because, I will say I do love London. I like living in London, but partly because I have to be here. And I don't see my parents all that often because they live 300 miles and a quite expensive train ride away. And I miss them. And I think a lot of people are going to really get into, that feeling. I have really gone. I'm now just laboring the point, so I'm going to stop. But I hope that makes sense to you and to everyone in chat.
Oh, 100%. Like, it just makes me think about myself as well, I guess, because my grandparents, they hate that I live here, because they can't see me every day. I used to go to them every single day to just play a game with my grandma or something like that. And that cannot happen anymore because I just live quite far away. And like, they're not that well with their health necessarily. So it's also a bit difficult for them to travel all this far. And I'm just incredibly busy, so I can't go to them very often either. So it's just difficult, and it's a very easy message, and it's so cool that we have such a song in Eurovision now, which is so good and so out there, and it's just not your typical your love song or anything like you usually talk about in Eurovision. And I think it's so refreshing and in such a nice little coat of paint that it is in. And yeah, I love the song. It's amazing.
And if you talk about when it comes to winning the contest, is the song strong enough to be in the conversation? Yes, I think we've agreed on that. I think we have to talk about the zeitgeist and how important that is in Eurovision. Think about, it was like I think I've made this example in the past. No Walls Anywhere, that kind of vibe in the early 90s, or the fact that Ukraine's song connected so much with people in 2022 because it captured the emotion of the time, which was the things with Kalashok. That was quite a joyful song. It was a serious song. It was melancholic, but it was also joyful. You can dance to it. And it captured this kind of feeling of we're hurting. Either, Ukrainians are hurting. I think the rest of Europe is hurting in solidarity with them. But we're celebrating the fact that we exist and we continue to live on and no one is going to take it away from that. In the time since then, for I would say not just for young people, but in general, I think people's lives, the number one determining factor in our lives right now is economic insecurity. The last 2 years have been defined by rising bills and rising house prices and uncertainty about whether we can, whether we'll be able to sustain ourselves in the future, whether we'll be able to ever, afford to have a family, whether for older people, they can afford to support the family they have. If you have a song that connects with that feeling, people will vote for it. People will understand it. And because it's in actually pretty simple English, if they can put that message across in the right way, then we could really have a big score on our hands. I'm really excited to see how they do it because I think this is clearly a project that's in its infancy. There's just so much more coming.
Yeah. I mean, I have to point out this comment from Grace as well, which is maybe a little of a concern. Do you think the message comes across, though? I wonder if it will be lost on casual viewers. It is a good point, but I think the people who will get it will really immediately get it. And for the rest, it is still such a fun song. It is not a ballad or something where you really need to listen to the lyrics to get it. It is very in your face, and it's with simple things like just saying bye to your family and there's no going back, that you already understand what it's about. And then anxiety attacks is a very, very strong term to put in there as well. I think it's some more easier words that are being used very wisely to convey the message. And I think it has some broad appeal. And yeah, sure, some people won't get the message and you'll just think, oh, that was fun, and still vote for it. Or the other way around, maybe they won't get it at all and then they won't vote for it. But it will resonate with people, and that's the most important. Because the message from Ukraine 2021 also might not have come across to everyone. But it was a message that a lot of people still did get. And that is what is important, because they will vote for it. And, that's going to be important. Do you think it could be an issue?
I think a few things. Firstly, regarding the juries, I actually think that these kinds of songs are going to do better this year because of what happened last year. I think even if there's no guidelines change or anything, people are going to have it in the back of their minds. Because let's face it, the result last year was a little bit uncomfortable in some ways. And I think jurors no one wants to be seen as the big villain of the piece. And I think people are for the most part, they're going to be less likely to, do what some jurors did to Cha Cha Cha. I actually was watching an ESC Tom video just yesterday. I was looking back at some stuff from 2023 where, I completely agree with him. He was saying, how unacceptable it is that there were so-called professional jurors that put Cha 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 last, when any objective analysis of that final would never lead to that conclusion. I think the same is true for this, and I think people are going to be more cautious of that this year. I think also he's going to be a stronger live vocalist than someone like Käärijä was. Although Käärijä's stage show and his charisma and his rapping were excellent, I think there were rightly some criticisms made about his vocals. This song, as it is constructed, actually has quite a lot of... It has a pop element to it. Like, it's a good way of that I've been trying to show people of an example of this is you can sing Everybody by the Backstreet Boys over the chorus, because it is a typical, the chorus is a typical call and response pop chorus with rock influences. So it has that accessibility, which is going to see it do better. If we want to talk about the sort of pop favoring, Sweden favoring juries or whatever else, take a look at Smash Into Pieces and how they did quite well in Melodifestivalen last year. those kinds of jurors will like Rim Tim Tacky Dim, and they did like Smash Into Pieces, who obviously came third. So I will say we have less reasons to be worried about the jury vote with this than we did with Carrier last year. If I can make one more point, sorry, I know I'm waffling so much, but
don't worry.
I also think with how even this year is, you could feasibly see a situation a bit like Azerbaijan in 2011. Remember, they won the contest with 219 points. There were 43 countries participating that year. What that means is, can a situation emerge where you can win Eurovision now with 415, 420, 425 points? Yes. Easy path to get to that. 130 with the juries, 300 with the public vote. Totally feasible kind of result for this song that could win it the whole contest. So bear that in mind. We are not operating an environment like we were last year, where essentially the entire public voted for Kaya and the entire juries voted for Loreen. It isn't that kind of very obvious two-song head-to-head where they're miles above everyone else. We're in a different environment this year, so I think it's worth considering that. Rant over.
Yeah, it's a very open field so far, I think. I would answer even more questions, but I think we've been talking about Croatia for quite a long time so far, and I mean, rightfully so, but I think it is also time to move on sometimes, because there were also some national finals who didn't select their song, but they did select their finalists, and one of them was Iceland. The artist Hera Björk and Bashar Murat were the two qualifiers from the second semi-final in the Icelandic selection Sungva Kepnin. The wildcard also came from this heat and went to the artist Siga Usk. Now let's listen to short snippets from the songs. I prepared them for you. Yes, those are the three songs from the past semi-final who qualified. And while we were showing that, there was a super chat. So let's get to that first. Sadie Trent, thank you very much. And Sadie says, well said, Gabe. I came in halfway through the conversation. We may disagree, but you are super persuasive. Keep it up. That is a dangerous thing to say to Gabe. But
don't encourage me. You'll make it worse.
Yeah. Those are the qualifiers from... Yes, thank you very much, of course. Those are the qualifiers from Iceland, and they will make a 5-song grand final. And we also know that all of the songs will be in English, barring Biomint, who will stay in Icelandic. That was from semi-final 1. Did you watch this show? What do you think of the qualifiers? Do you agree with them? What would you change? Talk to me.
So I have not had a chance to listen to the full show, but I have heard the qualifiers. I think one thing that really struck me is all 3 of these songs are all stronger than Iceland's actual entry last year. So I think I'd be happy if any of them were the entry. That said, in terms of the live performance that impressed me the most, I thought Bashar Murad's was really nicely put together. I think this is a song that he wrote with Einar from Hattari. And I think that, who, as we know, are masters of a convincing stage show. I would love to know if any of that team were involved in this, because it was a really, really nice stage show. There were some nice little nods, I thought, to Bashar's background. So there's a moment where the 4 dancers do a kind of line dance. It's actually a Palestinian national dance. The song, it's got this kind of, I'm on a long drive kind of vibe. I think it would stand out at Eurovision, and I would say it's the favourite to win at the selection at the moment. And before we get the oh so clever analysis about why that is, I think that's on merit and on the basis of the strength of the song alone, everything else aside. So I think it's distinctive. It's got this kind of slight air of foreboding, and again, it's quite a relatable song. The lyrics in English. It's in some ways got similar material to Rim Tim Taggy Dim. It's about the difficulties of maybe making it in a world that's unfamiliar, having to change your surroundings, having to maybe go places or do things out of necessity rather than them being what you wanted to do. So it's very relatable. As for the other two, really strong songs. I think Hera Bjork, it's nice to see that she's kind of done Je ne sais quoi, but a bit modernized. It doesn't do much new, in my opinion. And, that. So I personally would have preferred Sigur Rós to be the automatic qualifier instead of the wild card. But no, a great set of songs to the final. And I think all three of them would make really good entries.
Yeah, I agree that these were the three that I would have put through as well from this heat. And I also think that the wild card should have come from this heat. I'm not a big fan of Hera Björk's song necessarily because it doesn't, like you say, do something new for her or the competition. And it doesn't feel like it's necessarily her song. Like anyone could really sing it. That being said, though, you have to credit her. Like she's a great vocalist, she's a great performer, and definitely deserves to go to the final. I think my favorite song of the night was Siga Usk's song. She had an incredible vocal, and I think the song just doesn't work as well in Icelandic, but in English, I really quite like her song. I think Bashar Murad's song, I don't know, I kind of wish he would return next year with an even better song. Like it's all right, but I feel like it will fade a bit too much into the background. It feels like if you watch the Estonian selection closely, it feels a bit like Oblivion without a drum and bass. And of course, this has a bit more of the lyrical content, which is a big plus, obviously. But I think he could do better. And I think I would rather send him with an even better song than with this one, because I think Siga would be a really good send. And if Biomind, that is the other pick that I would really go for in Iceland. They need to work on the staging because the staging is a bit weird and wild and wonky with astronauts and everything you can really think about. But I think it's quite a catchy song. So for me, my picks would be either Siga Usk or Biomind, but I would love to see Bashar Murad go back to the Icelandic selection once more with maybe a bit of a different song that's maybe a bit more rap influenced as well and something like that. I would love to see that. I'm just not fully convinced that this is the song that he should go with. I think he should go one year, maybe not with this song. You get what I mean?
One thing I would love to see, if Bashar weren't to go with this one, to go with something else, in the song he did with Hattari, which is a song called Cleffi, he did some of this really beautiful sort of calling. He sung the hook in that song. I'd love to maybe see a bit of that if he participates again in the future. I do expect him to win, so I don't know if we'll see him back, unless, of course, he makes the decision not to participate in Eurovision after this, which again is a possibility. So I do like Sigurd a lot, and I would really like Sigurd as an entry. I just think Bashar's song stylistically, it marks such a contrast from the other songs that have been selected so far. I thought even on the more limited stage of Songförkämpningen, I thought it was staged very nicely. His vocal was really strong as well, I thought. I just feel like it'll translate quite well to Eurovision, and much in the way that Methakandi Sol was a couple of years ago. This is a song that will stand out, and as a result, Methakandi Sol went through to the final. I think this would too. So I think, for me, both in terms of my personal taste on these songs and in terms of tactically what is going to do best at Eurovision, I think Bashar is probably the choice. So for me, I'm team Bashar for now, but I'm going to watch the final as well and see if anyone jumps out at me, because I think there's still time. I've only really listened to all the songs in this selection a couple of times. There's time for something else to click and then blow me away, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite of them all before anything went live was already non-qualified in the first heat, so I always have great luck with that kind of stuff, because the same happened in Croatia. Kind of like, as much as I love Rim Tim Taggy Dim, my favorite was eliminated in semi-final too. Anyway, that's besides the point. I think Iceland has some good options. Like, genuinely, any of the 5 songs would make a decent selection, and I do think Bashar is the big favorite. It stands out because the others are very much a bit more of the same genre, like a bit more Euro dancey, a bit more on the techno side of things, maybe not really techno, really, but just very Euro dancey and very, very uplifting. And it just stands out, even though it's just a 5-song grand final. But I'll be very intrigued to see the grand final and to see unfold this selection.
Right, can I ask? I just need to run to the toilet if that's all right, and I'll be back
Of
in
course,
1
of
minute.
course.
So I'll be
I'll
right
just
with
throw
you.
you out. I'll just throw you out. That's fine. Hey guys, it's me alone. Let's see if there's any questions in the chat. Please put ESCUnited as an at so I can see that it is directed at us. I see here somebody saying Christian Mogensen is saying Siga's song has an anonymous songwriter on the Icelandic version. I assume it's someone named Tiffany who was ashamed to own up to her shameless self encouragement. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it sounds like it is a song that was written in English, and they were like, "Oh wait, the Icelandic selection, you have to sing in Icelandic in the semifinals, and after that you can do it in English." But it does seem a little bit awkward in a way with the Go Tiffany. It's fun if you're called Tiffany, maybe, but I don't know. I'm glad it got the wild card and that we can see the English version of that song, because I think it's a lot better than the Go Tiffany line, or just more, the song in general is a bit more cohesive in English, I think. So that's going to be very interesting, for me at least. Let's see the next question from Joe Cass. As a Dutch person, do you understand Icelandic or other Germanic languages? I also see that Gabe is back, but let me put him back there. There he is. I do understand quite a few things in general, like Wild West, what Bashar was singing in his song. There are quite a few words that are quite easy to understand if you know a Germanic language, and are quite similar to Dutch as well. Like in Dutch, it would be called Wild Westen. So it's basically the same as in Icelandic, nearly. But yeah, there are quite some similarities sometimes with Icelandic, and it's kind of funny to pick up on those. Although sometimes it's just a little bit different. And Icelandic has some interesting letters that I never know how to pronounce, even though people tell me every single time, and I keep forgetting because brain. Do you understand a bit of Icelandic, or do you not?
No, I mean I speak German, and that doesn't help at all. No, Icelandic. You got to remember, Icelandic essentially is like Old Norse. Other Scandinavian, like other Nordic languages, they also can't really understand Icelandic for the most part beyond certain very simple phrases. The only languages with which it really has anything in common are like Faroese. So
Yeah.
like no one's getting anywhere trying to understand Icelandic from a Germanic or a Nordic language, basically. Unless you're Faroese, you're out of luck.
I would love it if there's someone from the Faroe Islands watching this live stream, even if they're watching it back. Like, say hi. I want to know if you're there. I have a question for someone from the Faroe Islands, because I've been looking for a handball shirt that I cannot find anywhere else besides people from Faroe Islands being able to purchase it, and I don't know anyone Faroese.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's totally besides the point. But if you are Faroese, please let me know. I need you. Riley, are you there? Yes, he might be, but I don't think he is. Are there any more questions about the Icelandic selection? Oh, somebody's saying, Alexander is saying, I'm a Dane who has lived on the Faroe Islands as a kid, but it was a long time ago.
Well, go back and get
Maybe
Roy
the
that
Danish-
shirt.
Yeah, maybe the Danish could help me as well. Like the Faroese handball team qualified for the Euros this year for the first time ever, and like literally 10% of their entire population rocked up to the German arena and cheered them on. And then they had a draw against Norway, which was incredible. And there's this one player called Skipa Gotu. He's incredible, and I really, together with a friend, we really want his shirt. But then we really want the Faroese one because it looks really cool, but we can't find it on any English website really, and so it's really tough to find, but really want one. And everybody was wearing it in the crowd, so it must be somewhere. I want it. So help me out if you can. Sorry for the shameless self promo in a way.
It's allowed. It's fully allowed. You know, like Just get Roy his shirts. Someone must know a way. Just keep. So I want you to bring it up on every live stream until somebody finds one for you.
Yeah, it's also interesting. Like the other day, there was news about the Faroese broadcaster applying for the EBU and maybe wanting to do Eurovision as well, which could be really interesting. So maybe then it will be a year or two later. But
I mean, the problem is, of course, though, with that, it's the same with there are Scottish and Welsh broadcasters which are part of the EBU, but they can't participate in Eurovision because the rights of the national broadcaster supplant the rights of regional broadcasters. They'd probably see KVF in the Faroe Islands in the same way they see S4C in Wales or BBC Alba in Scotland for now. STV, sorry, not BBC Alba, STV in Scotland. But
SVT.
We'll see. I'd love to see. Don't say.
It's a nice
don't,
bridge to our next topic.
No. Fine, I guess we probably should talk about Melfest.
Yes, because that is the next topic that we should talk about. I love the people who try to help me, but we'll keep talking about Belgium. Not Belgium. Why did I say Belgium? We already had Belgium. I had to switch my papers. Sweden. Yes, the fourth heat from Melodifestivalen has commenced, and the artists Denny Saucedo and Dotter have qualified for the grand final. Two further artists then went on to go to the second chance round that will be held after the fifth heat. They were Albin Tinwell and Scarlett. And I have a little picture of the results of this heat. And Gabe, before we went live, you told me that you saw this heat. I did not, because I want to have a reaction video I want a first reaction to all of the songs in the grand final. So I did not see any of the songs. So you'll have to take the lead on this one. Talk about Melfest. How was it? Do you agree with the qualifiers?
Right. I've been watching Melodifestivalen for many years. There are a great many songs that I've really loved, looking back. Songs like Bulletproof, and obviously Dotter was in this show, is one that really stands out. 6 Feet Under by Smash Into Pieces. Songs like Hold Me Closer by Cornelia Jacobs, Statements by Loreen, above everything else. And I could bring that up again in a minute, and you'll see why. This was, in all the years I've watched Melodifestivalen, the worst heat I've ever seen. And this lineup at Melfest this year is one of the worst I've ever seen. This heat was won by a song that, to be honest, should be scraping into second chance in a year that has a quality befitting of Melfest. I watched this entire show, and the only thing that left an impression on me was Circus X. I saw nothing new, nothing innovative, nothing that impressed me from basically anyone else. We have like songs which I have heard over and over and over again before. They're doing the same things, and they don't have something incredible like Tattoo waiting in the wings unless Marcus and Martinez do something remarkable in the final heats. They do not have something waiting in the wings to come and save them. The last few years, Melfest has taken a serious turn, and they need to start playing it less safe with the song selection, because right now it is going stale. It is just so frustrating because, even the supposedly, different entries, the ones with different influences, that Smash Into Pieces song from last year, which I talked about, this year's song is just a watered down version of the same thing, but worse. I find it so frustrating that we have, in a country that has one of the strongest music industries in the world, we are just totally, we seem to be just sleepwalking here and sending the most middle of the road, bang average things. This heat was the kind of thing I'd expect from Denmark. Like, that's how poor it was, in my opinion. Scarlett was the only thing that saved it for me, and they sent it to second chance, which was ridiculous. I'm just so frustrated, and I think this is reflective of, and I don't usually call the public out like this is reflective of the unfortunate attitude that the Swedish public sometimes takes, where they have maybe shut out the songs which are more creative. Statements is the perfect example of this. That song was incredible, and had it gone to Eurovision, it would have come top 3. It was shut out in favor of a totally bland, dull ballad that was never going anywhere. That is just the most extreme example, but this happens all the time. This show, they need to address what is going on with this show at the minute, because if it keeps going in this way, Sweden is going to start sleepwalking into some really bad results. You can't rely on a Cornelia Jacobs or a Loreen to show up and save you every year. And it looks like this is the year where they're finally going to be found out. Unless
the only thing
is
they're already
save us all.
Unless they... sorry. I started the sentence with the same thing you started your sentence with. It's not what I wanted, but happens sometimes when I'm Englishing. Either way, what I wanted to say is that they're already in the grand final. So I'm not sure if they will really get found out, because they can always blame it on, oh, we were hosts anyway, so what does it really matter? Honestly, like I said, first disclaimer, I have not seen this heat. I've only seen the non-qualifiers. I kind of like 30 kilometers an hour. It was all right. I get that it non-qualified, but I've not seen much hype. The past couple of years, they were really saved by Loreen, by Cornelia Jacobs, and it's really showing. Like, this is a show now written by 3 or 4 producers who write all of the songs. Basically, so far, all of the qualifiers, if you don't have an established name, you're basically screwed. Jacqueline was the only one that went through, and because all the others were basically, if you've been in Melodifestivalen a few times and you did well in those, then you're going to the final. We know your face. It's an all right song. You're through. And all of the newer ones you see going to the second chance round, or basically get eliminated. And it's just a little bit unfortunate. Like, Sweden has such a rich music scene. Like, even Smashing to Pieces, I get that people enjoyed their song last year, but you can just hear in everything. As a rock and metal enthusiast myself, this you kind of cannot call a rock song. It is written by pop producers who think they can write pop. It is such a watered down version of rock. And if you give real rock music or metal music in Melodifestivalen, you'll get crucified. Look at Stormbringer, one of the best rock or metal songs in any selection. Just completely paid dust. The staging was incredible for that song. Paid absolute dust. And it's just, Sweden is really, really plummeting down. And they're trying to change things with the system. Now having 6 songs in the heat, having a different way of doing Andra Chansen. I don't think those are the changes they really need. And they really need to look at the core of things and see what they can improve, because it's not been looking good. And of course, I've not seen most of this, but I've seen a lot of people talk about it online, that this year has not been that strong. And from the non-qualifiers, they sound a lot worse than usually, which isn't really a good sign either, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's the thing. Ultimately, I just punched my microphone by accident. Someone's just mentioned Tussa in the chat. 2021 was the warning shot. They should have seen that something was up in 2021. Last 2 years, they've had their, essentially the cracks have been papered over by Cornelia Jacobs in 2022. And then obviously that 2023, you had Tattoo and you had Air by Marcus Martinez, Smash into Pieces to a lesser extent. You then, it's like, I'm just frustrated because it's been coming, when you're this allergic to your own language, and when you're this allergic to thinking outside of the box, and when, as others have pointed out, you have a voting system that rewards reversion to the mean rather than things being adventurous. Like, it's really frustrating. This like split age voting thing they do, I do think is really harmful. People say the televote skews older. Okay, fine. The televote also skews towards things that are interesting, that are memorable. And the reason why at the moment, people can point out in the most recent heat that the 12 went to the song that came last in the heat, which was like The Old Guy, was because if young people can vote for free on the app, nobody under the age of 60 realistically is going to pick up their phone and vote by telephone. So as a result, that's going to skew massively more than it otherwise would. If you reverted back to standard televoting, I do actually think it would be a healthy thing. The other thing is, like, why are none of the songs out that have gone through to the final? None of them are streamable on Spotify or anything. Like, you're getting this ridiculous situation where you have extremely popular artists who can't put their song out on streaming platforms. That's ridiculous. It is utterly ridiculous. It's just frustrating. Then you have the artists who, like, people were excited about, people like Froke and Snusk, who've now come into the competition with something that's less adventurous and less exciting than their other music. There's just missed opportunity after missed opportunity here. And they've gotten away with it for the last couple of years. But now the chickens are coming home to roost. Like I said, barring a miracle in the next heat. It's frustrating because Sweden can be and should be much, much, much better than this. And Melfest is something that I have sat down and watched with my friends for years, and I've really loved and really enjoyed. And I have not enjoyed it this year. I have not enjoyed it in recent years. And that is so, so frustrating to me. Like, we are missing out on so much potential, and it's a crying shame.
Yeah, I basically agree with everything you said, because if you really compare, like, even last year's lineup, barring Tattoo and Air, if you compare it to something in the year where there was Nano, when there was a World Full of Strider, those kind of songs, that was such a strong year. The songs that were in the selection last year would be a lot less good than those and even feel dated compared to those, maybe. It's wild how backwards they're going and are saved by some good stuff that is also there. And it's a bit unfortunate. And we, of course, have to wait and see for the grand final and to see who will win and perform. But yeah, I've not been a fan of Melfest for the last couple of years. And it's a bit frustrating because it was one of my favorite selections and I've really fallen out of love. Like, I kind of don't really care anymore.
Like, we have to look at, to be honest, I think the best way to compare it, you have to look at other selections. What are other selections doing? Who's going up? Who's doing better? We have to be honest and say the field in Serbia is stronger. The field in Norway was stronger. The field in Finland was stronger. There's, they have the edge on Denmark. Well, great. That's not difficult.
No, but also the point that you made about the songs not being out makes no sense, because, like, you cannot generate any hype for the songs that were in the first heat or something like that. And it was a system that worked a couple of years back when streaming wasn't as effective, when YouTube maybe wasn't as big. But now it is really important to generate hype and to just be talked about a lot. And now, I mean, you cannot listen to the songs unless you do it in an illegal way. So yeah, all the hype is kind of lost for the ones in the first heat. So the ones in the last heat will always have an advantage. It's an entire thing. It's an entire ranting. We could be here for hours talking about this.
And, like, if you want your national final to be talked about in the same breath as something like Sanremo, then you have to back it up year on year. Like, the gulf. I mean, Sanremo has always, been very good for producing a very large number of very good songs. And it's sort of as an institution, it's far more established than anything else. If there's anything else we have in Europe that has at any stage been able to compare to it in terms of its national importance, in terms of its cultural influence within the country and so on, that is Melodifestivalen. There is absolutely no way anyone can look at Melfest and Sanremo this year and say with a straight face that they are in any way comparable whatsoever. Not even close in terms of song quality.
No.
The difference is enormous. And there's nothing that we've seen in Sweden that is as strong as La Noia or Sinceramente or Tuta Gold, any of these songs. In fact, all three of those songs I just named would absolutely landslide this selection, provided they were sung in English.
No, because it's Sweden. They wouldn't vote for it.
Good point.
Yeah, like, the Italian selection was so strong. And, I mean, we can ramble about this on for ages, but maybe we should just move on to the final selection that we should talk about, which was Portugal. Let me get the video ready for when I'm done talking and rambling. I nearly misclicked, and that would have been disastrous. So, the first semi-final of Festival da Canção happened this past Saturday. 10 acts took to the stage, where the top 5 qualified in the first round, those being Nena, Perpetua, Rita Rocha, João Borges, and Yolanda. A second televote round then decided the 6th act to qualify. This spot went to Noble. I made a little recap again to take a little look at 12 seconds of each song to see how they sound. So let's take.
Pelas costuras escura de armadura despida. Entrega a coragem que ainda arde, bate a luz no peito e arde, só chama que ainda arde. Take me home, let's fly away from here. I wanna see.
And those were the 6 songs that went on to the grand final in order of the running order, besides the last one, which was the televote qualifier. Did you watch this show, Gabe? If you did, what did you think of it? And what do you think of the qualifiers?
So I did not watch the show. Unfortunately, I didn't have time this weekend. I have heard a couple of the songs. I want to highlight Yolanda and João Borges. I'll start with my second favorite, which was João Borges. I really like this style, this kind of styling, this style of music, that kind of dark energy that it had on stage. That's really cool. And I enjoyed the song very much. But I thought that the clear winner of this heat, and in my opinion, the song that Portugal should send to Eurovision, was Yolanda's song. I thought her vocals were exceptional. Like, sometimes you listen to a song and you think, wow, you are really good. Like, the level of control she has over her voice and the way in which the bigger notes felt so well integrated with the rest of the song, I thought were really excellent. So for me, and I know she's well ahead in the odds at the minute for a reason, she's the clear winner of the heat for me. And if I had to name a song now I'd like to see at Eurovision, it would be that one. How about you?
Yeah, those two were the ones that really stood out to me as well. I also really like Nena with Conspiracy Theories in Portuguese. That was more of the song that I had in my mind initially that I liked a bit more than Yolanda's and João Borges. But live, it might not have come together as well as with Yolanda. And I mean, you got to admit that was really the clear best song of that semifinal. And we have to see for the second semifinal. I thought the second semifinal had a bit more interesting compositions, but maybe not the song that is out there to win it all. But again, live performances can change a lot, and Festival da Canção has had a few surprises in the past as well, where we thought, oh, this is the big favorite, and all of a sudden, boom, we get Love Is On My Side. Something like that, you know?
Yeah, true. Very true.
Always happen. But yeah, I think I would have liked Bispo to go through as well as one of the songs. I quite enjoyed that one. Unfortunately, it didn't go through. It's always a bit more difficult when you have the low-key, rappy kind of song. But that was one I would have pointed out as maybe a qualifier as well. But it would not have won the selection anyway, and it would not have been my favorite of the selection, but I quite enjoyed it. So I wanted to point that out as well.
I think in general, Portugal seems to have got on quite a good footing with Festival da Canção in the last few years. I think what they've done is created an atmosphere where the show's varied. They're clearly getting a good expression of the Portuguese of the Portuguese music scene and of Portuguese modern cultural identity through this show. And the promotion of the use of Portuguese is obviously really excellent. I think because of the strength of the show this year, they may struggle slightly more, but I really hope they aren't deterred if they do, because where they're at the minute, they're clearly in a really good place. I Curacao, I thought was great. Nothing more needs to be said about Saudade. That was stunning. Love is on my side. Again, great job. So they clearly are doing the right things. They need to keep doing what they're doing. They've got the right team in place right now. And I'm happy to see that this is now really starting to take off, because this is the first time I think we can say where Portugal has genuinely become quite a strong Eurovision country and has been quite a lot more consistent. I hope it continues, and I just hope that if things don't quite go their way this year, which is possible because of the strength of semi-final one, they do not get disheartened. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I don't think they will, because they've really changed the way they select the songs in, I think it was 2016 already, but it kind of didn't really appeal to all of the good songwriters. But they basically asked songwriters to submit songs instead of really letting an open submission do it. And it's an interesting take, and it really makes that you have quality, unique entries. And it's such a different vibe from other national selections, and you can really see it paying off the last couple of years already. I mean, they've won it in the past as well. Now, that was maybe a little bit more of a lucky strike out of nowhere. But there's a lot of quality in Portugal nowadays, and they've really went the right direction by asking the right people to do the right things. Will Yolanda do well? Well, it will stand out probably, because it's going to be something totally different from a lot of the more out there songs that we have so far. And I could definitely see a world where this could surprise a few people. Of course, we don't know who will win yet, because we still need a second semifinal and a grand final. But something like Grito, I mean, it was a great performance, and yeah, I would love to see something like this at Eurovision. They also now are really good staging, and that is something good to point out as well, because the past couple of songs were staged wonderfully. Love is on My Side is probably next to Shum, my favorite staging of that entire year. It was beautiful, and even like Saudade, it was so delicately done with nice bugs, such a good staging. They're really good at Eurovision now.
That was really perfect. I think you can say the staging thing is actually, I mean, if you look back, like they know when to be. This is the thing. Is actually the less is more thing is often more difficult to get right. I think you've given two examples that I think they're great examples of that, where you needed quite simple but very personal staging. Like Salvador, obviously being the ultimate example of this. I think with Salvador, they looked at it and went, "We just need to stick this guy on stage and let him sing."
Yeah,
and that was the best. In many ways, that was the best staging of that year, because it meant you spent 3 minutes really focused on that beautiful song, and then we'll know what happened next. It's the most successful Eurovision song in history in terms of result. So I really think this could work out. That aspect ratio change, really interesting. Actually, really quite liked it. I thought that was very clever. So things like that, keep it coming. Just don't change, Portugal. Please, whatever you do, do not change.
No, and I was at Benidorm Fest talking to Bernardo from Wiwi Blogs, and he was so enthusiastically talking about how they change gears and how they now so much enjoy making Festival de Canção, and they scaled down back to studios, but it doesn't really matter if you have these quality productions, and they put more time and effort into the acts now rather than having a big venue to hold the national final in. And I think that's quite nice as well, because you really show, if you have a good song as a songwriter, firstly, we invite you. Secondly, we treat you nicely. It just motivates a lot of people to submit a good song, and that is really exciting. And yeah, I've really been enjoying Portugal. It's one of my favorite selections. There's always some hidden gems here and there. Maybe this year, not as much. It's not really one that tingles my sensations incredibly well, but I mean, Grito is a great, great song, and I'm pretty sure it won the semi-final. Yeah, I'll be really surprised if it didn't. Are there any questions in the chat? I mean, I haven't seen semi-final shoot. Like, things can still surprise me. Joe Borsch was pretty cool as well, but I don't see it winning. Let's see. I saw a question more above. It is from Timothy Tagi. Deem? Interesting. Do you think Portugal could actually do very well this year by just being themselves, producing quiet, delicate quality? That was a difficult set of words. While every other country is desperately clamoring for attention, what do you think? Will it stand out?
Potentially. Again, it depends what's around it. We have quite a lot of loud and bombastic, it's true. And so it could be a nice kind of thing to break it up. Someone else in chat, Mark, says, it could be a palate cleanser. I think that could be a good point. But we have to remember that voters do not necessarily split along lines of genre. And if the ballads can be outshined by more dramatic entries, quiet songs can be outshined by louder ones. As a result, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get a good result. I think, I've heard some people, though I personally disagree, saying, oh, Latvia's in trouble because, even though there's not that many ballads knocking around, it's not strong enough. Now, personally, I think Latvia will do well, and I think this song has a decent chance as well. But I think Portugal has always done well by being itself to some extent. If there's one thing you could really look at there, just go, this is very Portuguese. There's none of the Azerbaijan rent a Swede about Portugal. And that, I think people respect that. And it means that when they produce something that's quality, it leaves an impression on people. There's no reason why that can't happen this year. We'll have to see whether Grito is what we get. And we know that, like with Telemoveish, for example, it can go in the other direction when they are totally themselves. But I personally, at the moment, have some, quiet optimism about her chances.
Yeah, I really like that Portugal really hones in on that authenticity, and I think that's their strongest suit, and they're really good at it now. And yeah, it could stand out definitely in the lineup, but again, we need to see all of the competition, and there's many songs still left to go because we've only gotten 22 at the moment. Then Gyarados GDG is asking, do you think we're in a new era of Eurovision mainly due to the removal of the juries from the semifinals? It's maybe not necessarily Portuguese related, but I don't know. I think it's always way too soon to say after such a recent change that we're in a new era. I think you can only really say that in retrospect when things change. Like I think 2006 was a big year for, I think that's when we kind of transitioned into a new era because you could see, something else than pop music can do well. Rock song won. And then you see so much more variety in the competition. I think that is a big change of era. I think 2016 is a big key moment as well when you see, authenticity. That is really interesting. A song that we never could see winning all of a sudden. And that's kind of been a trend the past couple of years. In a few years, we can maybe look back at it a bit better, seeing if this was really a change of era or not. I don't think we can quite say it yet. What do you think?
I very much agree with you. I think I would add 2013 as another year, which was significant for the contest as well. We'd had sort of that period of time, not so much for 2010, but 2009, 2011, 2012, and those enormous arenas. And the show and the songs in the show had to adjust according to that. 2013 marked, I think it's in fairness to Malmö, it marked a point where it's like, okay, this is very clearly the right size room for this show. I think at that point the EBU and the broadcasters understood a bit more about what Eurovision was in a modern context. That was the year it kind of found itself. And obviously just before, and it conveniently came at the same time with Loreen winning, where you'd sort of entered a new era for pop music in the contest, a new era for relevancy of the music in Eurovision, in charts and so on. Do I think we will enter a new era on the basis of what happened last year? No. The reason for that is that, basically one set of results does not an era change make. You might see certain tropes reoccurring in the same way we've seen dance breaks reoccurring, for example. In ways that are, and I know that there were other dance breaks before because someone always says it. Yes, there were other dance breaks before Chanel's, but I'm sorry, Chanel's dance break is the quintessential Eurovision dance break. Like, it is what, if you have a dance break now, that's what you're going to get compared against. No one's comparing dance breaks now to Eleni Ferreira. And with respect to Eleni Ferreira, that song was big at the time. It has not had a legacy in the contest. in my opinion.
Memes, but
Outside of our sort of core demographic of fans, in the way that other songs have, like the impact of slow-mo on Spanish culture that year was really quite marked. I think we'll probably see people trying to grab attention more, understanding more what that they need to perhaps do something which is eye-catching, something which gets people excited. But I more think it's a minor adjustment rather than something that's era-defining. And so, and as someone points out in chat, televote and juries mostly agree on qualifiers. They'll have one or two different. I should say on Eleni did impact the contest. My point is what I think I did undersell it a little bit. Alexander in chat is right. Eleni didn't mark like a new era in the contest. Eleni was influential in times that, okay, this is the kind of thing we can do to go in this direction. I mean, we saw Cyprus trying to repeat the trick, right, for example, for a couple of years. But that's probably, Ansi has put it in the best way, which is Eleni paved the way, Chanel perfected. Chanel's dance break is the quintessential Eurovision dance break. Nothing will change that. But yeah, how Ansi puts it is probably the best.
Yeah, I think it's just like one song or one little change is not going to make an era. You have to wait a few more years, really. Mm-hmm. And I think still it is a trend of authenticity being the clear winner. Like Ukraine won with authenticity. You knew that was a piece of her. Then Portugal won with a piece of him. Then even Israel, like that, she's a loop artist. That is a piece of her. Then Arcade won. You just know that is a piece of Duncan. Like it feels very fitting. Then Måneskin, that was really fitting as well. It felt very genuine, very authentic. Then we, of course, at Ukraine felt very authentic as well. And then last year, of course, I mean, Loreen, she's known to be that pop queen, and it even felt fitting in that kind of regard. Maybe a little less compared to the others, but I think that is more of an era kind of thing rather than just a small little trend here and there. Mm-hmm. But maybe we should go back to Portugal a bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, if anything, if anything, when it comes to Loreen, the thing that Loreen has done, in terms of the relevance of pop music in the contest and its success in the charts, afterwards, I think we can look at Loreen and also at songs like Snap by Rosa Lynn, for example, which has outsold basically everyone ever when it comes to streams. There is a new, if there's a new trend that's coming, in my opinion, it's going to be actually more related to the kinds of pop that gets sent. You're going to see songs which are more, I think we're going to see more chart success in the coming years. I think we're going to see songs that are going to kind of take up that mantle, hopefully, in a better way. We'll have to see. Like we said, it's too early to tell, but give it some time.
Yeah. There's not necessarily a question, but a remark. A comment about Portugal. Yella is saying, it's always when I listen to the Portuguese songs pre-show that they don't click with me, but the live performances always make a difference in a Festival da Canção. There is so much authenticity. I'm not going to say that I couldn't agree more, because sometimes the opposite happens as well. But I often have found myself falling in love with a song as well after I've heard the live performance first. Like a couple of years back, you had Movimento. I didn't have it on my radar when I listened to the songs for the first time, but then I saw it live and the energy they brought and how it was meant to be delivered. And I fell in love with it. And then I started to listen to the studio version a little bit differently as well. And that's very strong. And Festival da Canção is really good in making sure it comes across authentic. So, yeah, pretty much agree.
I've sort of run out of things to say about Portugal. I mean, I think you. Yeah. I mean, as for that question, you said it basically exactly how I would have said it.
I think it is time to go to a bit more of an open Q&A kind of thing. So if you guys have any questions Eurovision related, fire away. Like, it can be any country, it can even be any year, preferably, of course, 2024, because we are very much present in that. But you can ask us anything you really want to, as long as you keep it respectful, of course. I'm not gonna answer what my my pin code is or something like that. I also have, of course, these screenshots of the semifinals. And I want to put a question to you right now, Gabe. Out of this semifinal, all the songs that we have right now, you have to kill 2. Which ones will you say at this point, and I'm putting you at gunpoint, who will non-qualify from these 2 pieces?
Luxembourg and Moldova.
And why?
Obviously Moldova is Moldova, so it could pull something off. I don't think the song or the package is strong enough. I don't think it jumps out at you enough. And so unfortunately, I think they're going to be returning to the semi-finals. They've also lost an important friend in Romania when it comes to points. Luxembourg, I think, for the kind of votes that it's playing for, even just from the snippets we've heard, and I mean there have been leaks as well, it's and obviously we've kind of heard the song anyway because Melissa Mandzoukis did it for the Greek selection last year, and we know it's the same song. In terms of that genre of pop, I'm afraid Cyprus absolutely destroys it. So I think Luxembourg is in big trouble, and I think that's a symptom of a national final in which nothing was authentic and everything was manufactured. And for Moldova, while I understand why this is the song they wanted, I just think it's going to fall a little short. I don't think the overall package is strong enough to qualify. How about you?
I agree with you on Luxembourg. I think it is just a bit too beige of a pop song, and she performed it well. I'm not gonna lie, like she's a talent, but I think that there's more interesting stuff that people will gravitate towards, and it's more one of those songs that you kind of tend to forget after a bit. So I think they'll struggle, and although I would hate to see it, I think Slovenia might be in a bit of trouble as well. While she had great vocals, somebody just asked a question as well about the live performance on the Dora show. It was really, really good. I just think it is just a little underwhelming instrumentally at the moment. I know they want to revamp it, which is odd as well since it's an internal selection. But I just fear that it doesn't quite have the impact. I feel like people will be like, that was cool. It's looked cool. It was interesting that it was a different structure. But I fear that it might struggle to really make people pick up the phone for it. And that's ultimately what you want in a televote only semifinal. So those would be my picks at this moment. Let me remove this. I was not prepared to finish my own sentence, which is weird because I was the one saying the sentence. Happens sometimes. I saw a few questions, and of course that semifinal put on was just to get a bit of extra time. Why is my laptop acting up? Okay, question time. Joe Cass asks, did you watch Dora live? Did you like the live performances by Raven and Slimani? I already pointed out Raven being pretty good live. Did you see them?
Yes, I did. And my answer to the question is yes, I did like the performances. But that performance is also why I don't think France can win the contest this year. Because that vocal performance was absolutely stunning. And the song still doesn't move me because the song isn't strong enough.
Yeah, I think... I mean, France is not winning the competition, but I think it will do well. And like, he's got an incredible vocal, and he really showcased it on the Dora performance. He moved away from the microphone, which was such an epic moment. He was like, "Yeah, let me just do this. I'm a pro." And he still bloody nailed it. Like those vocals, people will resonate with it. Juries will love it as well. And maybe the song isn't the best out there, but it's in French. He's got a great vocal. It'll do well. Will it win? I don't think so. But I think France will do better than last year, for example. Quite a lot better, I think, as well. But yeah, I loved both performances. They were really good, and cool that they invited them as well. And they both said yes. Just always good to see.
I think it's good that they did it. At the same time, putting those acts on after the absolute disaster that was the Dora semifinals, like, it's a great way to make yourself look stupid. Because there were some vocal disasters in that semi-final. And as has been widely covered in Croatian media, there's a lot of questions about how fair the selection process was for picking those songs. After some absolutely disastrous performances, then having two vocally perfect interval acts like that on each of the nights, it just seemed like a mistake.
Yeah,
It made them look very silly.
Yeah. Yeah, it was maybe a little bit unfortunate, but I mean, it is a national final and you only have just like one song out of it, so it doesn't matter as much, but it was a bit too obvious because there was a lot of vocal mishaps and those were incredibly strong vocally. So yeah, I do agree. Fen is asking, what would be your dream host city for 2025? Regardless of song, where would you want to go next year? Regardless of song. I know you want to say Zagreb. Or
Regardless
maybe
of
even,
song, if I could pick any city.
Tartu.
Yeah, the university gym at Tartu. No.
Yes.
I can say any city in the world, or any city in Europe.
Yeah.
I'm going to surprise you. I'm not going to say Newcastle.
Oh, wow.
I've got a bit of a left field choice for this.
Oh.
Ljubljana.
Ooh.
The reason
That's
being,
interesting.
the arena at Stajitsa.
Oh, yeah.
I watched the Joker Out film. That arena would be excellent for Eurovision. It's a gorgeous location, Zero City. It's a gorgeous arena, very new. And I think it would be an amazing city to host Eurovision. And if I was going to pick another one, I have to insist on two actually. Tampere. The Nokia Arena is one of the most incredible arenas I've been in. Tampere is an amazing city. It's exactly the right size to host. It's close enough to Helsinki that you can rely on hotel capacity from there and other cities too, for people just coming for the contest and then they can go back to Helsinki. So you could even have two fan villages, one in central Helsinki, one in Tampere. They did this really clever thing where the after party was in the arena. Brilliant idea. Stops the local bars and so on from being overloaded. Means everyone stays in. It helps pay for the event. So two very different cities in Tampere and Ljubljana, but I think they would both be excellent host cities. How about you?
I don't know. I think it's difficult. I don't really have much knowledge about arena sizes or anything like it. I would just like in general to be somewhere that I've personally not been, which is still quite a lot of options. I kind of feel a bit bummed out that I missed Eurovision in Portugal because I loved Portugal when I was there on holiday. So it's a bit of a weird answer after I just said that I want something new. But
it was very nice
I would
out
love
there.
to have a Eurovision.
Lots of the fish.
And the arena seemed pretty good too.
Arena was good. It was very professionally done. Very nicely done. Really easy getting in. Like the queuing experience was one of the least stressful that I've had to go through. So I was pleased with how Portugal did it.
Yeah.
If you had to pick a new city, though.
I would love Eurovision to go to Czechia. So I would love Prague, for example, to be a city that they hosted. I don't know if they have the venue or anything like it, but it's a very beautiful country, and that would be pretty cool. And Czechia have never won it before. Maybe also something like Albania, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Yeah. I mean, they can strike gold out of nowhere. Who knows? But Tirana would be pretty cool as well, I think.
I think, the good thing, I think countries I think there's a big correlation between countries that are good at ice hockey and countries that will be good at hosting Eurovision, because the perfect size arena is a large ice hockey stadium.
Yeah.
Like 20,000, 18,000, 19,000 capacity ice hockey stadium, whack a stage in there, whack a green room in there, and boom, you have a 12,000 capacity Eurovision arena in like a nice compact space. So big enough for TV, small enough, and big enough, and used to hosting live events, lots of bars and stuff around. So it's got that kind of event culture already, which means the infrastructure is set up for that kind of thing. It's just, I think, so basically Ice Hockey Europe is great at hosting Eurovision. Although I would like to see sunny Europe get in on the act again, in a way that's slightly more accomplished than Turin 2022.
I mean, handball has quite a few cool arenas as well that could be used for something like it. It's also very sporty. And then you go a bit more to Southern Europe, maybe like North Macedonia has quite a cool venue, I think. Yeah, I think it's pretty big in Skopje. That could be cool. But ice hockey is a little bit bigger than handball, probably.
Yeah. I think also, as much as I love going to sort of, quite off the beaten track places, I think there are some, you mentioned Prague. I think there's some really iconic European cities that I would love to see Eurovision in.
Yeah.
I realize that the prospect of Turkey returning is distant at the moment. But if Turkey is in a state where the leadership of the broadcaster and the government are progressive enough one day to come back, I'd love to see a modern Eurovision in Istanbul. I think the same goes for somewhere like Sofia, Thessaloniki, Barcelona. Barcelona would host a glorious Eurovision. I think in general,
Barcelona has
Spain. Maybe someone like, I don't know, Marseille or Nice or somewhere as well would be really amazing.
Ooh. Yeah, I also want to throw out Budapest. If like Hungary is back in a state where they can re-participate, I would love to go to Budapest. That would be really cool. But they're not in Eurovision at the moment, so I didn't pick them.
This was a good question. Well done to whoever put this question in. I liked it very much.
Thank you very much, Fen. Next up is a question by Alexander Bagels. If both semifinals will end up having 15 songs, do you think the amount of qualifiers should be cut down from 10 to 8? Do you think it should be? Me neither. Next question.
In all seriousness, reducing the number of songs in the final is a terrible idea. 26 is just fine. Keep it as it is.
Yeah, it's like the perfect amount of songs in the grand final. And then you'd make the big 5 and the pre-qualified a bit more powerful as well. So I think you should keep it at 10. And like they should really look at reducing the cost of going to Eurovision for a lot of the countries. And I know they just recently granted a bit of a loan to Bosnia, I think, to repay their debts. But it's insanely pricey at the moment to be part of Eurovision. And not every broadcaster can afford that, unfortunately. And I think that's more of the bigger thing that they should look at rather than cutting down the qualifiers from 10 to 8.
Yeah. I think there are some good signs in this respect, though, when it comes to the countries coming back. I think because of the way the EBU, like the sponsors that the EBU are bringing in, people like Royal Caribbean, things like that are going to be very high value deals. The TikTok deal was worth a lot of money to the EBU as well. I think that what you want to do is in future rely a bit more on those commercial deals as the contest continues to grow in relevance, and it has grown a lot in relevance in the last few years. And as you do that, it means you're able to rely less on affiliation fees, which means you can go to the Balkan countries that have withdrawn and say, your affiliation fee will drop. Here's how much you have to pay. It's less than you used to pay. Come back.
Yeah, I hope we get to that state because we want as much countries participating as possible, as many cultures to be represented. Because if you look at the map right now of which countries are in Eurovision, South, East Europe is looking very, very empty, and it's really unfortunate, in my opinion.
I understand that there are people worried about the number of countries in the contest as well. Just on some other questions which are related to this, it just makes sense to address them now. People saying, oh, what if semifinals end up with 14 songs or less? What if both semis end up with 15? We could end up with 35 countries this year. The first thing is, regarding this year, we're not going to end up with 35 countries. Because presumably you're thinking about Israel and Iceland. Only one of those two will withdraw. If Israel withdraws, Iceland will stay. If Iceland withdraws, that's because Israel is staying. So everyone else now has committed to participate. So we're at a minimum of 36, which is the lowest I would like to go. But if regarding Connor John, regarding withdrawals, Moldova, severely doubt. Czechia, definitely not going anywhere. But with it going lower than that, if the EBU saw a risk of it falling into the low 30s, they'd take action to prevent it. Having two semifinals is too valuable, and the limit at which that starts to stretch in terms of credibility is at 34, because at that point you have 14 country semifinals. You can't really go below 14.
No.
They will take action to ensure more countries can participate if they hit that kind of level. That's why Australia is not going anywhere. In the most extreme example, they may go back to Kazakhstan or someone and say, hey, look, we really kind of need your help now, given that that's exactly why they let Kazakhstan into junior Eurovision, was because they needed a few more countries. And they started to get creative. That's why we got Wales as well. They found ways to increase it. I don't think you need to worry about the health of the contest in terms of the number of countries in the long run. With sponsors and everything else, we're basically at the floor. There's only one or two more realistically that can drop off. If you look at all the participants now, Czechia, I think now is set in place. Their results are decently strong. The links they've built up in the music industry are pretty good. They're able to do something pretty good each year on a pretty tight budget. And they have a team that's very emotionally invested in it. They're not going anywhere. They wouldn't have done what they did this year if they were about to withdraw. Moldova, you got to think about the chances that it's in Moldova's interest to keep participating because they're not a country that has chances often to brand themselves internationally. The main cultural exposure we get to Moldova is their Eurovision entries. Culturally to them, it's too important, and I don't think they'll go. What we need to focus on is getting the Balkans back in, Bulgaria, Romania, North Macedonia. I think North Macedonia will be the easiest one. I think we can expect that they will most likely be back next year and retain everything else that we have. We'll end up with 39 or 40 in no time at all.
But what a great motivation it would be if Croatia wins this year.
Yes, exactly. I think the Balkans will be all over Eurovision next year if Croatia wins. I think they will come flooding back.
I hope so. Quick question. Only one answer. Which of the remaining national or internal selections are you looking forward to the most?
Oof.
I'll answer first. The Netherlands. Simple. I'm so hyped for Joost. I cannot wait. I was genuinely, if they didn't announce the time, I was genuinely prepared to skip the entire day of uni to record a video and listen to that song as quickly as I could. But luckily, my uni day is over when I need to record that video. And also, luckily, Switzerland is right before I need to go to uni, which is even more perfect. So let's go.
I'm also going to go the patriotic route. I'm going to say Ollie Alexander is a really exciting moment in Eurovision for the UK. And I'm really excited to see what we bring. I think the snippet doesn't tell us that much. I think it could go anywhere, each or other way. But it's the biggest institutional backing that a Eurovision entrant has ever had from the UK, at least in modern times. I mean, so it's a big moment for us, and I just really hope we take it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some TV performances from Ollie, and that seemed very cool as well with staging and stuff and his presence. I also know a friend of mine. I told him, just some news came out about the UK representative. I didn't even say that. I said, oh, do you know Years and Years? And literally his first thing was, yeah, I saw them once live and it was absolutely terrible. And I was like, oh, okay. He said it sounded like nails on chalkboard. And then I said, oh, well, the lead singer is going to Eurovision for them. And he was like, okay, but it's been quite a few years, so he might have improved. And I think he has. But
I would
I'm
recommend
very curious to see what he comes with.
If you're worried about the live vocals of Ollie Alexander, go watch the performance he did with Elton John of It's a Sin. Flawless. He's improved a lot. He's a really great vocalist.
I might have seen that one already, but I'm not completely sure. I need to scroll through all of the... Oh, I'm at the bottom now. Woohoo! Are there any more interesting questions? Let's see. I thought there would be a lot because we rambled for so long that the people chatting started to stack up. I saw a few people saying, if you had to put on a bet at this moment, who do you think will win Eurovision 2024?
Croatia. Comfortably, Croatia. If you had to say one was comfortable, it's Croatia right now. I can't see it. Right now, that's where all my eyes are.
I think if I had to point out three, I would say Croatia as the first, I would say Norway as the second, and I would say Belgium as the third.
I think for me, I'm going to throw in an honorable mention for Lithuania. It's really exciting to be talking about countries like Lithuania, Belgium, Croatia, isn't it? for potential wins.
And Norway even.
Yeah. I
mean,
mean, I
Norway's
don't
there
want to
more
pay those
often, but
hotel
not for a song
prices.
like this.
I love that song, and if it won, I'd be
Okay.
celebrating. But the hotel prices,
I've not even got something for Malmo yet, so yikes.
yikes indeed.
I
Well,
don't even
I'm
want
sure
to.
you'll work something out. Be fine. We'll all pile
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
All
like I
will be
said.
well.
I hope so, but we probably figure something out. I could also go by bike and just bring like a tent or something.
You just
Nah,
camp
I'll be
outside the arena. Yeah.
Yeah. It really depends on the accreditation situation as well, to be honest.
Keep your fingers crossed for us, everyone. That'll happen, I imagine, in about a month and a half from now. So,
Yeah, probably. Yes, there's another question that I cannot really answer, but you might be able to. EKMNS. What are your favorites from Serbia's national final this year? Now, for me, I have not listened to any of the songs. I wanted to make videos on them, but there's 28 goddamn songs. It's really difficult because God damn it, like, please reduce the amount of songs you have, because it is so difficult if you want to listen to those songs in full, which I value very much as a reactor. I think it's completely bollocks if you react to a recap. That's a big frustration of mine that just throwing out into the world there. I want to react to songs in the fullest. If you have 14 songs, that is already 3 minutes times 14, which is, let me quick maths it, 42 minutes by just listening to songs, let alone talking about it or introducing each and every song. So the raw footage of those videos would be 1.5 hours at least. My poor camera will be very warm at that point. If it doesn't crash, then my audio needs to capture as well. Why 14 songs? It's so many. It just frustrates me. So I want to make videos on them, but it's so difficult to put myself into that situation because I don't have all the time in the world to make them. I wish I did, but yeah, I have not heard the song. So that's basically what I was wanting to say with that answer. So have you listened to the songs? And
no, it's on for this week. No, is the answer.
I also
will
wish
listen to
there
them
was.
this week. I'll have opinions for you next week.
Yeah. I also wish there was more time between semifinals and the grand final, because then I could just make a video after the semifinals after we've eliminated a few. But yeah, that's a bit of
seems like a good show. Of what I have heard and from the reactions I've seen from other people, it seems to be really strong. I have heard Breskvica. I have heard Teodora's song. I've heard Philip Balosh's song, and I enjoyed all of them. So, and it's like I was saying before about Melfest. Literally, all three of those songs outsell basically everything in Melfest already. So,
I believe you.
Like, that's why I'm already like, yeah, it's stronger than Melfest this year. But I'm not going to start that argument again. I think that I'm excited for it. I just haven't had the time to sit down and do them yet. I think we are at the point of the season as well, and I think we can say this. Be nice to your favorite Eurovision creators for the next couple of months. I can definitely say, and Roy, I'm sure you're starting to feel the same thing. I think everyone gets into a position now where things are happening so fast that you often, it's, it can be difficult to pause and take a breath. You have to just constantly, the next thing just has to happen straight away as soon as the last thing finishes.
Yeah, it's mental sometimes. Like I have a lot to at the beginning of this season. I still had an internship of 40 hours a week, and besides that, I had to make videos and record them and edit them, and make sure that it's all divided. Besides that, I have handball practice. I have to give practice to a team as well. I also have a social life that I need to obtain. I have friends to see. I have my family to see. There's so many things behind the scenes that it's so tough to sometimes just plan in Eurovision. And I love Eurovision with a burning passion, and especially love national finals and just picking out those gems and just analyzing it way too deeply. And I absolutely love it, but it's sometimes so draining and so difficult, because the issue with Eurovision, and especially doing reactions, is that it's so much based on timing as well. Like, if you are 1 day late, people aren't going to care as much anymore, because there's already 5 others who've already done videos. And I know that I've now got a decent fan base who will come back just for my opinions, and I absolutely adore that. I love that, but it's still, you see the effects, and it's sometimes it's a mental game. It's sometimes pretty tough, and yeah. I don't
Yeah.
want to be saying like, oh, it's difficult, I hate doing it, because I love doing it, but it's sometimes not as easy as people think.
No, I think it's absolutely right, and I think for me, I think the thing that has been quite stressful for me recently is that sort of making peace with the fact that I keep knocking my microphone, making peace with the fact that like the sort of stuff I tend to do, as well with like the ESCUnited stuff, then the other stuff I do takes a couple weeks for the production process to run its course. So because of that, you're going to be I do reviews each week, and they're going to go right through into April, and you sort of have to make peace that there are some people who are going to want that immediacy, and that's the thing that's what I love about doing streams like this, is it means we can do that. Like, I really love being able to sit down here once a week and go, right, what's happened? What did we just see yesterday? Like, that's great. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just it's one of those things where over time I think fan media is improving so much, and there's so many exciting things going on, and loads of people doing really great stuff, and the production value of everything is really jumping now. The quality of writing, the quality of journalism in all the outlets, it's all improving so much. But naturally, as those standards increase for all of us, it's a bigger workload. It's more things to do. Like, my voice is starting to give out on me because I spent 2 hours filming before I came on the stream today, which I started doing as soon as I finished work. Roy can testify, the only spare time I've had today was about 5 minutes before the stream, in which I scoffed my entire dinner down at like 6:55 p.m. today, in the 5 minutes before the stream started. Things can just get pretty hectic, but it's always really worth it with everyone who comes and
I also
like,
have
shares these
to
things
start
with us.
planning. Yeah, I also have to start planning my Friends React again, which is last year I severely underestimated that. Sorry if we just go a bit off track, but I basically have to plan in 10 recording afternoons with my friends, which is fun, and like it's a lot of fun to record with them, but it's an entire afternoon I have to commit to recording with them, make sure that they're at ease, because it's not something they usually do. They need to, feel no pressure, so I need to take the time with them. It's 10 afternoons that I need to record, and they need to be here for it. Besides that, every single video last year, and I underestimated this immensely, cost at least 25 hours to edit, and that was just literally only the basics. And this year, I think I'm in a better headspace to really plan that out better and to nail it more. But it is dry editing that is like quite boring, frankly. It's fun to puzzle,
editing
but
is so repetitive.
Yeah, it's fun to select the parts where it's the most fun when your friends are saying something cool, but it's really boring to just only take a look at where they actually say something and cut those out. Like, you cannot speed up that process. It's going to take a lot of time. So it's going to be an incredibly busy part of the season, but it is also really exciting because I love Eurovision so much. Anyways, we've got way off track, but
No, that was cathartic. I enjoyed that. That helped a lot, actually. It's I think it's the nature of a seasonal thing, and I know if you look at colleagues doing all kinds of things from all kinds of different outlets, I think everyone's feeling it a little bit now. It's the rush, but it's also, and I'm sure everyone in chat gets it, this is in many ways the most exciting time of the year because entries are coming thick and fast, and there's new things happening all the time. I mean, if you just look at the last week, we have been yapping for 2.5 hours, and we could probably keep yapping for another 2.5. Although I think my voice has about 7 to 8 minutes of shelf life left at post. Maybe with that in mind, we should answer a few more questions quickly before it gives up, because I can hear it croaking.
Yeah. Don't worry. It's we love doing it though. What shows are you planning to watch this week? Because there will be a lot on. And is there going to be a live stream again? Yes, there will be a live stream, of course, because we have been given permission to run rampage on this chat. No, that's not true. But we will be live streaming next week. I don't know which day we are going to do yet. We have to discuss that probably. I think we'll have to discuss that with how our schedules line up. But there will be a live stream, probably either Sunday or the Monday, which of the two works better. And and watching shows. Let me see what is on because I don't know that on top of my head. I see that we have Sweden Heat 5, we have Iceland Grand Final, we have Serbia the Grand Final, and we have Portugal Semi-Final 2. So for me personally, I'll definitely watch the Grand Finals of both Iceland and Serbia, and probably lean a bit more towards Serbia because I've already heard the Icelandic songs. What about you?
So I sorry, ask the question again. My mind is just completely my brain.
What shows are you planning to watch this week?
Okay, sorry. My brain had melted a little bit. So this week, obviously, well, I'll probably try and watch a semi-final. I think I'm at home, a semi-final of PZE if I can on the Tuesday or Thursday. But the main thing is that Saturday night is going to be a classic stream two things at once kind of day because there's only 5 songs in Song for Ketman. I think I might be able to listen to everything in Serbia and Iceland, and maybe just sort of play a bit with watch things in intervals and so on to make sure I can caught up. So those I'm definitely going to get both finals next week. Hopefully I'll get some semi-finals as well. I also want to listen to FDC. I want to listen to the Portugal songs this week. And as much as I hate to say it, I am probably going to go back and listen to some of the Melo songs from the first couple of heats as well that I've got through, just to have another look. I want to give them a chance. It's been tough so far. I want to give them a chance.
Good. Yeah. I think we have been yapping on for long enough now. It's been 2 hours and 38 minutes. So I think it's more than enough because we have talked about everything that happened the past week and the weekend. And we will definitely be there again next weekend. We'll have to check out Sunday or Monday. You'll get to know very soon because it will be planned in somewhere this week. You can follow us on Twitter and on Instagram, also our personals if you want. And then you can follow or find out about when the next live stream will be happening. Gabe, do you have any last things that you really need to tell the people in the world? What is it?
My dinner was nice.
Oh,
and I am really
nice.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was like a sort of a beef and potato thing, but no, seriously, thanks. I want to say thank you to everyone for coming along.
Yeah,
as with last week, I think for us as well, it's really, really great to be back doing this again. I think we miss it so much in the off season, and it wouldn't be possible without the support of everyone in this chat. So thank you all so much for all of your ongoing support, and much love from us.
Yes, I very much echo that. There were like 200 people watching at all times, so it was really wonderful to be chatting to you guys about everything Eurovision. And thank you guys for coming out, and I hope to see you guys next week as well. And I think it is now time to say goodbye. So we hope to see you next week. Have a great night, or great morning, or great day, or great whatever. Just have a great life in general, because we wish that to everyone. So good night for us, and see you next week. Bye.